Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We are your hosts, Leah and Michelle. We are super excited about today's show. It is February 23rd, 2018. And right now, currently in the United States, we have CPAC going on where you can see some incredible speeches, pretty much for anyone that you love, that you admire.
They came packing. Literally and figuratively.
They did, absolutely. So we want to show you some highlights today from Farage, from your President Trump, and Dana Loesch's speech. I have to tell you, as much as I enjoyed Farage and I enjoyed Trump, her speech
she was on fire. She had just come and just been beaten over the head at the CNN town hall. And she came like on fire. Like she was like literally on fire, like fumes coming like right out her ears. While we had people coming, I want to start with a few highlights from lesser known Marine Le Pen. Marion Le Pen. I don't know exactly how to say it.
Not Marine.
Marion.
Marion. I don't know. It's Marion, but Marine Le Pen is Marine Le Pen.
Right. Marion Le Pen.
Marion
Le Pen. Marine Le Pen's niece. She is fiery. She is beautiful. She is just wonderful. And actually, what first I want to start. I was going to start in the middle of this speech, but I want you to hear. She has a good sense of humor about things, so I want you to hear. This beginning part here. If my thing will go back, it won't. She had a good sense of humor in the beginning. Let me see here. I love my life. All right, let me try to.
So also, what you can look forward to is your favorite Canadian in mine, Justin Trudeau, has kind of had just one more disaster, which we are going to bring that to you guys.
I am ever grateful that Justin Trudeau is the Prime Minister because nobody else is as funny as Justin Trudeau.
I don't know, Nancy, Maxine.
No, I think he takes the cake. I really do. I really do. All right.
I have come to honor 240 years of friendship. Our friendship began long before the Normandy shores and the trenches of Bellewood, where the echo of your soldiers' bravery still resounds. Our alliance is knit in the quest for freedom. My country, France, was the first country to recognize your independence. It was...
She's so cute.
It was by French blood, spilt on American soil, that our friendship began. Today, over 2 centuries later, here at CPAC, we are once again standing side by side in another battle for freedom. This freedom is a gift. Economic and political freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of conscience are our common treasures. After 1,500 years of existence, it's us, the French, who now must fight for our independence. No France is no longer free today. French are not free to choose their policies, whether they are economic, monetary, on immigration, or even diplomacy. Our freedom is now in the hands of the European Union. This European Union is not Europe. It is an ideology that looks only to the future while being contaminated with historic amnesia. An ideology without land, without people, without roots, and without civilization. The EU is in the process of slowly killing millenary nations. I live in a country where 80%, you heard me correctly, 80% of the law are imposed by the EU. Our parliaments only purpose today is to endorse legislation voted by others. Let me be clear here. I'm not offended when I hear President Donald Trump say America first.
She just said, I'm not offended when I hear him say America first.
In fact, I want America first for the American people. I want Britain first for the British people. And I want France first for the French people.
I love it.
That's why I fight for French diplomacy to keep its unique role, to act as a link between the East and the West, A long history has allowed us to form privileged ties with Africa, with Russia, with Asia, as well as the Middle East. We must be able to keep the ability to decide for ourselves our military and diplomatic decisions. Our forces are complementary. Like you, if we want to make France great again, we must defend our economic interests in the global markets. The EU submits us to unfair competition with the rest of the world. We cannot accept a model that creates slaves in developing nations and unemployed in Western countries.
We cannot accept a European model that creates slaves in undeveloped countries and then unemployed people in the developed countries.
Yeah, I know a lot of you guys are having trouble understanding her, but
it sounds so beautiful, so just go with it. I will try to explain it when we're done here. Just a couple more minutes. It's a beautiful speech.
It was like Trump mixed with Marion.
I refuse the standardized world proposed by the EU. I consider that the people have the right to a historical continuity. All I want is the survival of my nation, to be able to pass on not only my tangible heritage, but also my intangible legacy.
What did she say there?
Roll with it.
I don't know what she said there either.
Something about a legacy. Vive la France.
This young French generation is not encouraged to connect and love this cultural legacy. They are brainwashed with guilt and shame of their country. The result is the development of an Islamic counter-society in France. After 40 years of massive immigration, Islamic lobbies, and political correctness, France is in the process of passing from the eldest daughter of the Catholic Church to the little niece of Islam.
Wow.
And the terrorism is only the tip of the iceberg.
France is passing from the elder sister of Catholicism.
No. They didn't understand what she said, so say it in English.
To the niece of Islam.
This is not the France that our grandparents fought for. How did we get here?
Here, this is good because she talks about the nuclear family here.
How did we get here?
It's really good.
Because the EU and French governments forgot one crucial point. To open oneself to the outside, you must have a solid core. To welcome, you have to remain, and to share, you must have something to offer. Without nation and without family, the limits of the common good, natural law, and collective morality disappears as the reign of egoism continues. Today, even children have now become a merchandise.
Commodities.
We hear now in the public debate, we have the right to order a child on catalog, we have the right to rent a woman's womb, we have the right to deprive a child of a mother or father. No, you don't.
She's saying you can just order a child on a catalog and rent a woman's womb. You don't have a right to do that. You don't have a right to deprive a child of a mother and a father.
Child is not a right. Is this the freedom that we want? No, we don't want this atomized world of individual without gender, without father, without mother, and without nation.
We don't want these kids without gender, without mother, without father, without a nation. What is this? What kind of world is this? And this is a super powerful speech.
So, what do we want then?
I'm going to stop it here. I want you guys to watch her whole speech. It's only like 12 minutes long. We watched half of it. It's really, really, really good. That was the part I wanted to get to. In the beginning, the funny part, she said, I don't know, people, they calling me fascist. They calling me socialist. She's like, she's not a socialist. She's not a fascist. A lot of people were putting her down and didn't want her at CPAC. They said she was hate speech and blah, 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 blah. This and that.
I think it was really powerful. I can't imagine having CPAC without her.
I love to reach across the pond to our French friends. We probably should put Le Pen in the title if we can fit it. I don't think we can.
We're maxed out there.
Take out Dana, put in Le Pen.
I don't know. I think Dana Loesch's speech is a little bit more.
I love having Le Pen, but we want our French viewers to know that we cover them too.
We'll put it in the description.
We had some when we were covering Marine Le Pen. We had a lot of French people come over and join us on Resistance Chicks. Okay, so who do we want to go to next? Dana Loesch?
Sure, why not?
All right, Dana, baby. Let me see. Here we are. We have Dana's speech here,
which I want you guys to watch her whole speech, but Leah says that we're not allowed to play the whole thing. But it's really, really powerful. So we can at least play the highlights.
Conservatives, we have the superior product. We don't have to modify our views. We don't have to rationalize why we believe what we believe. We don't need platitudes and red meat because we have the superior product, the proven superior product.
Pause it right there for a second, because I don't know. I'm operating under the assumption, and we run a news channel where a lot of you guys get your news just from us. For those of you that are not aware, because we didn't cover it, because we didn't go live last night, CNN had a town hall in Parkland, Florida. And they wanted the students there to be able to speak what they were feeling. Except it was very scripted. And the junior ROTC members that wanted to speak were allowed to speak, but they were handed questions. And pretty much Dana Loesch was the only person there that was asking the tough questions. It was absolutely ridiculous. And that is why she's on fire here right now.
I want you to see this exchange here with the sheriff, because it will set the stage for why she was so on fire at CPAC.
Be mentally ill. We need the power to take every firearm they have away from them and bring them to a mental health facility.
39 visits did not meet that standard. 39 visits, assaulting students, assaulting parents, taking bullets and knives to school. Did that not meet that standard?
Well, which are you speaking about specifically? You seem to know about all 39.
Well, I know there's one Florida statute where if he's sending messages threatening to kill people, that right there, under Florida state law.
Who did he send the message to kill people to?
BuzzFeed, AP, Reuters, Yahoo News, all reported that was to other students.
Who is the victim?
It was sent to other students.
Dana, Reuters can't be a victim. The only person who could be a victim is an individual.
Sheriff, is what
so
I'm
if an
saying.
Individual was threatened and it was real, that's a crime. But if he's posting things...
They were threatened with death. They were threatened that they were going to bleed. They were threatened that they were going to be killed.
Well, what's your specific case?
And he had already taken bullets and knives to school. He had already assaulted people. He assaulted his parent. He assaulted other students. 39 visits. And this was known to the...
I don't think that this is at all the proper way to handle anything like this. You don't sit the sheriff down, interrogate him while there's an active investigation. Like, what if they had done that in the Vegas shooting? Sat down. This is not the way.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying. This is completely unprofessional, and you want to know who put this forward? CNN. It literally is the CNN town hall. It's called Taking Something Out on Parade. In the middle of an active investigation. This is the most unprofessional thing I have ever seen in my life. But that being said, I'm glad that Dana Loesch was there as a voice of reason.
I was, and I'm going to let her finish here, but it just... In no other circumstance would any sheriff go and immediately... He's still investigating.
The only reason that he's there is because he's on the inside. He is a pawn. He knows exactly what's going on.
You know,
he's being used, and he is part of the corruption.
Information on Las Vegas, because sheriffs don't share information like this.
Right.
It's so...
Well, you don't go out and do a debate. It's not a political... Stop it again. I'm sorry. This right here, what you're seeing, what does it look like to you? Doesn't it look like two candidates hashing it out? It kind of looks like a presidential candidate debate. Why are we seeing a presidential type candidate debate on a national stage about a shooting that just happened a week ago?
This is all planned. All planned.
Now, I'm not saying that you can be everywhere at once, but this is what I'm talking about. We have to follow up on these red flags.
You're not the litmus test.
Doesn't that meet the standard?
You're absolutely not the litmus test for how law enforcement should follow up. You're wrong. There weren't 39 visits. Some of them, they were GOA. Some of them called from other states. To say there were 39 visits, I don't know where you got those facts, but you're completely wrong.
Did they report it inaccurately?
They reported it inaccurately, but if you're going to stand up in front of a national audience...
CNN.
reported these things.
That they had visited him 39 times. And what he didn't tell you, and what CNN later reported, was that one of the last times that was called against him, he had threatened people's lives, and they just said, I'm gonna let it go. We don't have probable cause. We don't find. They talked to him. They didn't do anything about him. Somebody had called and said he has a gun. He's threatening to kill me with a gun at 19 years old, and they just let him go. They didn't bring him in. They didn't do anything. At any one of those times, if he had been booked, if he had been charged with anything, he would not have been able to purchase the firearm.
So I want to get to the punchline and go ahead and let Dana get to it, but I'm going to give it to you ahead of time. What she's trying to say here is, I want you to
that's the end. There's only 3 seconds
well,
left.
then did she not get to her punchline? The statute that she was talking about is that under any one of these threats, any one of these times that he was called in, the Florida statute gives the sheriff probable cause to go in, to grab this young man and take him in for involuntary evaluation.
You can take people's guns away. One of our neighbors was threatening to do things
to the next, literally 2 doors over. He was threatening to hurt their dogs.
And they came and took his guns.
They came and took his guns away.
I think he eventually got him back, but you're not allowed to threaten people with guns.
And so that's what Dana Loesch was trying to get to, and this sheriff kept interrupting her because he didn't want her to make that point.
Right.
All right, so now that you have a backstory for those of you...
her speech really gets going, so I'm going to skip ahead here. It kind of gets going in towards the middle here.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss anything good, because it was pretty good throughout.
Minutes long.
I know.
Every time we play something fully, then, like, YouTube doesn't like us. I thought it was
pretty good in the beginning, actually, and then kind of petered at the end.
Well, now it won't play at all. It says, "Thou shalt not argue with thy sister who is in control."
Who's it talking to?
You.
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 You. I'm right. Y'all know I'm
friend
right.
and late mentor once said that if you can't sell liberty, you suck.
That's a good place to start.
And that's true. So let's have a conversation about last night, shall we? Because the conservative movement, we've been so incredibly successful. We saw that when we expanded the tent. We saw that when we took over social media. And statists had to innovate to outsmart us or try to outsmart us. They had to change their algorithms to suppress our speech on social media platforms. They tried to ignore us. And
talking about suppressing speech, I do have to let you know that this CPAC is not all fun and games. It's actually run by establishment conservatives.
Yeah.
And Pamela Geller put together a panel to talk about this censorship that's happening. So much censorship. And because they were going to bring on a guy from Gateway Pundit, they gave her the runaround. They shut it down. So I just want you to know that there are horrible people in the Conservative Party who don't care. They put this stuff on there. They let some of the good people speak here and there, but they feel like they're losing control of the party.
Right.
And I just want you to recognize that.
They try to change Google rankings because we are a voice that they can no longer ignore. And try as they might to spin it, they are unsuccessful. And they have been. Now I'm going to say something that some people are going to say is controversial. So I'll say it really slowly so all the people on the platform in the back can hear me loud and clear. Many in legacy media love mass shootings. You guys love it. Now, I'm not saying that you love the tragedy, but I am saying that you love the ratings. Crying white mothers are ratings gold to you and many in the legacy media in the back. And notice I said crying white mothers because there are thousands of grieving black mothers in Chicago every weekend, and you don't see town halls for them, do you? Where's the CNN town hall for Chicago?
I have goosebumps.
Where's the CNN town hall for sanctuary cities? Where was the CNN town hall for Jamil Shaw Sr., whose son was murdered by someone who illegally entered the country and had been deported repeatedly? Where was his voice? Where was the voice of those junior...
Why? No, I think that Fox News should hold a big giant town hall for families of people who have been hurt by illegal aliens.
Right, but here's the thing. It wouldn't get the publicity. It wouldn't get the notoriety. I don't think it would get this. CNN, somehow they have just grabbed a hold of, they've taken advantage of
it's
a
not
perfect
just
storm.
CNN, it's the entire media.
Right.
It's all together. Former President Barack Obama tweeted out to these kids who are putting this thing, we're behind you. You guys are our leaders now. Whatever. Yeah. You're leading them.
Your ROTC members last night, CNN?
Here were your ROTC members. You know what these ROTC kids did? They
this is great.
They had this sheet, this hanging sheet, and they got everybody into the classroom, and because they were outside and they got everybody into the classroom. The ROTC members, they kind of reminded me of like the Maze Runner guys doing this. But anyways, there was a sheet, and he goes, "Wait a minute, isn't that sheet made of Kevlar?" Like, yeah. So they took down this Kevlar sheet and surrounded themselves with this Kevlar sheet.
I love it.
And that wasn't at the town hall, by the way. Because that would have been training by the ROTC, and who gets some funding from the NRA, and the NRA is now the devil.
Sure.
If it bleeds, it leads, doesn't it? And I don't mean to ignore you all here, but I'm really looking at a lot of the legacy media back there on the platform, and you can write whatever you about me, and you can come find me in the hallways, and you can scream at me, and you can try to confront me, but I'm here, we're not going anywhere. I call BS. If it bleeds, it leads, but it has to be the right people from the right communities at the right time. Let me just explain something to you all. I think it was insane that I was the hardest questioner on the Broward County Sheriff last night. How is that possible? Washington Navy Yard, Garland, Texas, Fort Hood, Charleston, Boston, San Bernardino, Orlando, Parkland. Do you know what all of these mass tragedy incidents involved? FBI dropped the ball.
Yep.
They dropped the ball.
They literally threw it away from themselves.
Now, I'm allergic to universal statements, just like I'm allergic to people who think Green Day is punk. But let me just be clear. In Charleston, this murderer was able to pass a background check, even though he was a prohibited possessor, because, as former FBI Director James Comey said, they made a mistake. It was a paperwork error. Sutherland Springs, this mass murderer was able to go and mow down a church because why? The Air Force did not report his conviction. The fact that he was mentally unstable to the NICS system, which, by the way, the organization that I represent, 5 million plus members, average everyday Americans, moms and dads. They do the school run. They go to the grocery store. They're students. They're hunters. They're people like me who simply don't want to be assaulted in the parking lot if I go to the grocery store and get a gallon of milk at night. They are people like us, and we will not be gaslighted into thinking that we're responsible for a tragedy that we had nothing to do with. It is not our job to follow up on red flags. It is not our job to make sure that states are reporting to the background check system.
That's so huge, and that is the apex of what happened down in Parkland, Florida, and all of these other mass shootings.
It is not our job. A failure of law enforcement is not a failure of the law. It is a failure of enforcement. Now, if all of those in the legacy media are arguing for the NRA to give us the authority and the resources to go and follow up on these red flag events, I'll volunteer right here now to do it. We have resources available at anyone's disposal if they want to reinforce their schools. But I'll say it again loud and clear. We're parents too. And I believe, as the millions of members that make up the NRA, and I think millions of people just in the United States in general, Don't you think our kids deserve the same protection as our celebrities?
And Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama.
Don't you all think that our kids deserve the same protection as our athletes, as our banks, as our businesses? But yet we leave them the most unprotected. My condemnation is for those at the FBI. I know there's some good agents there, but for those at the FBI who dropped the ball 8 separate times with catastrophic consequences. You know, James Comey, when he wasn't busy taking directions from Loretta Lynch as to what to call Hillary Clinton's investigation or writing his self-aggrandizing memoirs, you know, he said they made a mistake. Maybe if you politicized your agency less and did your job more, we wouldn't have these problems.
Thank God he's out of there. But the rest of the FBI that's corrupt is still there.
I want to make this super obvious point. The government has proven that they cannot keep you safe. And yet, some people want all of us to disarm. You heard that town hall last night. They cheered the confiscation of firearms, and it was over 5,000 people. I had to have a security detail to get out. I wouldn't have been able to exit that if I did not have a private security detail.
And that's what's so funny. The liberals at that venue were so hateful and so violent towards Dana Loesch. They yelled, "Burn her!"
Right.
One person like ran towards the stage.
You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't decry violence and then use violence to enforce your upsetness at violence. This is not the French Revolution.
Right.
It actually is all over again, and that's why it's as plain as the nose on your face.
It is. These people, if you let them loose, they will just they'll lynch you. They will.
They are a lynch mob.
There were people rushing the stage and screaming, "Burn her!" And I came there to talk solutions, and I still am going to continue that conversation on solutions, as the NRA has been doing for before I was alive. But the government can't keep you safe, and some people want us to give up our firearms and rely solely upon the protection of the same government that's already failed us numerous times to keep us safe. And then they also call Trump a tyrant, but then say that they want the president to also confiscate our firearms. Try to figure that one out. You know, after the Parkland tragedy, media was rushing to identify who this person was, and Politico ran a headline that said, "A white nationalist said he's one of us." Here's a message for people in the legacy media, many of you, not all, but a lot of you. Don't trust white nationalists. Don't use them as sources. Don't trust them. Senator Byrd's legacy lives on, I guess.
He was part of the KKK.
If you take anything from my remarks to you today, and I say this to the reporters in the media, I say this to the people at Slate and the Salon and Think Progress and Media Matters and the people who we keep clothed and fed because their beats are up.
Those come up. Media Matters comes up like top searches all of the time.
Yeah.
I want you to all ask yourselves, where are the stories about how only 38 states submit less than 80% of criminal convictions to the background check system? It's only as good as what's submitted to it. How many of you knew that?
I didn't until I heard her
why
speech.
isn't Dianne Feinstein calling for that? I have to question whether or not they want this system to fail.
And they do.
Where are those
That's
headlines?
The whole point.
Where are those headlines? Where are the headlines? And you know, by the way, do you realize that those are millions of people who have been adjudicated mentally unfit or criminally dangerous that are able right now to go and purchase a firearm because the politicians who are given the most lip service about it have done the least about this. They could change this tomorrow. They could change it today.
Because at the end of the day, they want more shootings. Because they really want to just take everyone's guns. They're not happy until they have grabbed everyone's guns.
And you guys all know this, but just in case we end up with new people here that maybe aren't red-pilled, they don't understand it. Here's the thing, guys. Every time there has been a communist revolution, they've always started by taking away their weapons.
Hitler took everybody's weapons.
And unfortunately, we have these young people at this town hall that think naively that if all of the weapons are confiscated, then the government will just continue to give out free food and free health care and be a wonderful parent for everyone. And instead, what will happen is they will become a tyrant and they will take over every freedom. We will not be the land of the free, and these kids just don't understand. And what you will continue to see is the bad guys will always have weapons.
Do people not watch movies anymore?
And guess what? Another thing is, we have these kids, they grow up, and I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid, being an anarchist was really fashionable, right? Anarchy, no government. And I see a lot of these kids here in the town hall that kind of remind me of the friends that I had that were anarchists. And I'm like, okay, so you want anarchy. You don't want the government, telling you what you can and cannot do, and yet you're willing to give them everything. All power over you.
It makes no sense.
It is the complete
so
opposite
messed up in the head.
of anarchy. So you can't rebel against the current president or the current government, no matter who is in power, and then come back and say, but I really want the government to control me. Because every 4 to 8 years, a new person is going to get into power. And if you give up your rights, you're never going to get them back.
And you can't say, on the one hand, like Black Lives Matter, that the cops are no good, I'm never going to call a cop. But then at the same time,
you only want the cops to be the ones
to have the weapons.
And here's the thing: even if they take the guns away from you and me, the gang members that are actually, when you look at the stats of shootings and deaths by shootings, it's all gang members. They are the ones that are going to continue to always have weapons.
Everyone's drugs in the United States, is it going to stop coming in the United States? Guns are going to get in. People are going to have weapons like they do all over the world.
Exactly.
But they won't, because they're exploiting a tragedy for an agenda. Shame on you. We call BS. Where are the stories about how? Here's a stat for you. From 1950 to July of 2016, 98.4% of mass shootings have taken place in gun-free zones. That's a fact. You guys are welcome to go. It's all online. I mean, there's this thing called Google. It's maybe the same place that you found the white nationalist to quote for your political headline, but, just be careful, vet your sources. Fake news and all, One of the things that you saw in this video before I came out, because a lot of people have been asking what I'm going to do next. God bless America that I can stay in Dallas, Texas. And God bless America that I'm able to join a group of people at the NRA and NRA TV to bring you an hour-long program every day beginning in March, no commercial breaks. None. We're going to show the media how fisking is done. And fisk those in the legacy media that insist on ignoring the real headlines, that insist on ignoring what is the cause of tragedy. I was sitting on that stage with the Broward County Sheriff, and the toughest question I was asking this man, how did you fail 39 times? They had a law enforcement go to this murderer's house 39 times. He was caught taking bullets and knives in a backpack to his school. He had threatened repeatedly to shoot up his school. He was out there in plain sight using his name on social media accounts, sending messages to students that violated a Florida state statute that meant that sheriff could have gone to his house that night and it had him involuntarily committed. Why didn't he? Why didn't you, Sheriff? That's not the NRA's job. That's yours. I'm joining NRA TV, and I'm really excited about bringing.
That kind of covers pretty much everything that that I wanted to showcase there. But she brought up something that somebody had sent us on our Resistance Chicks Facebook page, a message, and I want you guys to consider this because in this quote-unquote gun debate, it's always nice when you have a debate that somebody gives and both sides give a little. And this person, John, points out that a lot of times we see the conservatives want to hold really hard to the psychiatric element of this. And while I do agree that if somebody has psychiatric issues, then it should be harder for them to get a weapon. But if you just kind of blanketly give that away, then it will become very easy for them to take that to the next step, and who's to say that they don't judge you mentally unfit? It's not just if
you've
they're on
in and said I was depressed. Well, we've all been depressed.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you seek a therapist for being depressed,
yeah,
will suddenly you not be able to get a gun?
Yeah. So let me read this from John. He says it really well. He's like, I'm just bouncing this off of you. I'm not buying into the mental health thing so hard. The Dems lay the groundwork for the call for gun control, and the Republicans do the same as mental health, both laying down groundwork really for gun control. Now we place rights of others into another set of hands. Now, kind of not giving due process or the person committing the crime. As strongly as I believe in the Constitution and the right to the individual's right to bear arms, I just can't go for it. Now, what happens when the psychologist has an agenda like gun control? That might just be taking someone's right away to defend themselves. What happens if someone, if some intruder comes into someone's home and starts shooting? Well, since your health conditions, you have to wait 10 minutes for the PD to respond. That even can affect hunting. One might not make a lot, but can offset the cost with a deer in the freezer. You all know about that. And helping their family, again, a veteran, like we already see. And Feinstein said all the vets that served have lost
have had some sort of PTSD.
And where will that fall? I support Trump and all, but this time not quite sure how I feel with the health idea. Not to mention, there really isn't a proven test for mental illness. It is just listen and prescribe, basically. So I just figured I would bounce this off you. And I really appreciate that comment, John, because it is a sound-minded discussion that we need to have, because if you start implementing mental... Do you guys understand that they are ready to impeach Trump on mental health issues right now? It's one of the things that they're putting forward. And if they can try to impeach Trump, which we all know, he may be a little bit
goofy.
Thank you. That's exactly the word I was looking for. But he is mentally sound. And so if they can go after the president of the United States, sure, a shooting, no pun intended, they can come after just some average person that maybe one time said to their school counselor that they had, a suicide thought or depression or, because a boyfriend or girlfriend broke up with them. So it is a really fine line.
It's not really a fine line, in my opinion, because when you look at the people who have had mental illness, they also have had a history of violence within their mental illness.
True.
So I feel like there has to be, you can definitely go down the mental illness route if they have had a history of violence.
Bingo.
The Sandy Hook shooter.
Yep.
His mom tried to get him committed because he was violent and she was afraid of him. Mm-hmm. And he was mentally ill and he was on prescription drugs. So when you mix together a history of violence or a history of threats, you can't be mentally ill and make threats to someone that you want to kill them, you want to hurt them. If there's a right now even you can't buy a gun if you've had a history of domestic violence. Right. So if you add to domestic violence to a history of mental, so what you need to do is if somebody has some sort of criminal conviction, if they're called like 39 times, and then you have them mentally evaluated, and you say this person
like 3 times. I mean,
they're called one time. If you have a mental illness and you're on prescriptions and you have a history of violence, I am okay with you not being legally allowed to buy a gun.
Yeah.
If you have threatened anyone in the past, if you say if you've wanted to say I'm going to kill you to anyone, no, you don't get to buy a gun.
Right.
It's plain. That's simple, right?
I agree.
All right. So I'm going to go to Nigel, but we're on this now. So let's cover this news. Let's cover some of the new things that have come forward. Now, this is the newest thing to come forward, and then I'm going to go backwards a little bit, talk about the deputy who didn't go into the school. Now, Michelle doesn't know this because I just read this on my way into the house. I was riding back from getting my dog a prescription, but not for her mental health, for her arthritis. FBI somebody leaked the transcript of that FBI tip.
Wow.
Okay. So the person close to Nicholas Cruz. Now I'm 99.999% sure it was the woman that he was living with, because she was the one who called the police and said, he is threatening me. He has guns. He's threatening to kill me. Somebody said he'd put a gun to somebody's head, and it was that call that should have had him brought in for mental evaluation. You don't get to threaten somebody if you have guns. They get to take your guns away. I mean, it's the same thing that happened to our neighbor. You don't get to keep them if you threaten someone.
And we're going to cover the guard standing down and all that.
Right. So here's the thing. Pretty sure it was the mom's friend that gave was given custody, and he got kicked out a few weeks later. Anyways, so the quote is, Cruz would get into a school and just shoot the place up, according to a leaked transcript of her call to the Bureau's tip line 1 month before the massacre. The transcript, seen by the Wall Street Journal, provides chilling detail about the woman's efforts on January 5th, just a month ago, right? Tragically, the FBI was busier doing other things, covering their tracks, trying to find those text messages or get rid of the text message from Lisa Page and Strzok and things like that, trying to get Trump impeached.
Yeah.
They obviously have other things on their hands. I understand you can't stop mass shootings. You know, it's just so much, said the caller. I know he's going to explode. The woman said she was making the call because she wanted a clear conscience if he takes off and just starts shooting places up.
Wow.
According to the transcripts, which were reviewed by the Wall Street Journal. The caller also mentioned that Cruz dressed up as a ninja or an ISIS fighter. Now, we heard from one of his friends that he used to sit at lunch table with that he admired ISIS and the Syrian fighters. While the FBI last week acknowledged receiving such a call, the transcript and the stark nature of the caller's precise warnings about Cruz's disturbing actions. Here's the thing. They didn't knock on the boy's home. They didn't even talk to him. This right here is what the town hall should be about. We should have a town hall talking about our FBI. I want everyone to sit down and talk about the FBI right now. Right. And I want the FBI to show up. And I want them to answer questions, okay? About everything. It's alarming to see these pictures and to know what he's capable of doing and what could happen, the caller continued. He's been thrown out of all these schools because he would pick up a chair and just throw it at somebody, a teacher or a student, because he didn't like the way they were talking to him. At that point, he should have been on a gun registry and not been allowed to buy a gun. If you assault students and a teacher in school, your name goes in the database, baby. Okay? This is a history of violence. You don't get to purchase a gun. She also said that Cruz was due to inherit $25,000 a year. So this is the woman, right? From a life insurance policy, and she was worried that he would spend it on guns. Psychopath. She the concerned Cruz acquaintance, this woman, we know who she is now. That makes perfect sense. Also told the FBI that he mutilated frogs and at least on one occasion a bird. He brought the bird into the house, she recounted. He threw it on his mother's kitchen counter and he started cutting it up. He has all kinds of hunting knives. I don't know what knife he used, though. And he started cutting the bird up, and his mother said, "What are you doing?" He says, "I want to see what's inside." The caller said, to me, that would be a red flag. Apparently not so much to the FBI, which admitted last week that it had failed to forward the call to the Miami Field Office for Investigation. The FBI also admitted that the Bureau had investigating a school shooting threat made on YouTube last year, but could not identify the person, despite Nicholas Cruz using his real name to sign the threat, which quite literally says, "I'm going to be a professional school shooter."
I want to tell you guys something about the FBI right now.
I'm going to be a professional school shooter, Nicholas Cruz.
They have an agenda.
That's two right there, right?
The agenda is to grab all of America's guns. And it's not that they failed to give this information to the local chapter of the FBI. It's that they deliberately did not. Because while they may not have known if this kid was going to actually shoot up a school, they want to leave it out there. Well, if he is a potential of a school shooting, we'll just use it.
Yeah, we'll
just
use
that.
We'll use
so
it.
leave 100%. It out there. So even if you guys can't go with us that it was a false flag and it was orchestrated and that there were people behind pushing him to do this.
My gut says they said, I hope he does it. I hope he does it.
I think absolutely. I think that they knew that this was a possibility, a real possibility. That's why they put these drills into place immediately after the fact. So that they would know and the kids would know and everybody would know how to react. Let's do a practice run because we know that he is going to commit
Somebody had said these kids had like 5 drills a month or something for active shooter.
Because they knew that it was a possibility, a real
threat. That's why all the kids were like, it's another drill. It's another drill. Why we just have another drill?
And I don't think that they were doing the drills so much to prepare the kids as much to desensitize the children. If you think that an active shooter is such a threat in your school that you have to do all of these drills, the first line of defense is metal detectors at the door.
Right, absolutely.
If you think that it is such a threat, that will stop the knives, that will stop the guns. And I know it's going to inconvenience people, and it's going to take longer to get into the schools in the mornings. It doesn't matter. These 17 people that died, their lives are worth that inconvenience.
But I want you to get, there's more to this story, because CNN, I don't know, here's the thing. This is not the stuff that CNN is reporting on it, but they're not reporting on it, okay? But according to the CNN's FOIA request of the Broward County 911 records, has produced a steady stream of scoops about the Parkland, Florida school shooter, fleshing out much of what is publicly known about Cruz's background and the various reports made the warning the FBI and other authorities about his threatening behavior. Okay, so the police were warned about Cruz's violent past, that he, quote, used a gun against other people before, and he had, quote, put the gun to others' heads in the past. But they did nothing. It's in the police reports that he had taken a gun and put it to somebody's head. At that point, you don't keep guns anymore.
Yep.
They take your gun from you, because that's a crime. He should be in jail. That's a crime. You don't get to brandish a weapon in front of people, much less put it to somebody's head, right? That's almost attempted murder.
Yeah.
In my book, because
it's attempted murder. If you put a gun to somebody's head, that is attempted murder.
The FBI last week, and so here's the thing: Dana Loesch was at the scene. This is what makes me mad, because Dana Loesch was at the CNN town hall, and she's like, I'm reading these reports. We're at the CNN town hall, by the way. I'm reading these reports that you knew this,
right?
Okay, that this is from your police reports.
And what that sheriff did was completely.
And he said, "What do you mean?
Blame.
What do you mean? Tell me a specific person.
Instance.
Tell me I don't know.
You know what? I don't think that Dana Loesch and the rest of us are privy to these specific instances.
Right.
But CNN here is holding this town hall, and the sheriff just said, well, you can't trust the media.
Under the established protocols, the information provided by the caller should have been assessed as a potential threat to life, the FBI said.
Chris says that it's a felony called intimidation with a firearm.
There you go. See, he should have been in prison and never would have happened. The information then should have been forwarded to the FBI Miami field office, where appropriate investigative steps would have been taken. Of course, nothing happened there. In addition to the FBI's monumental failure and the steady stream of 911 calls about Cruz, video evidence revealed. Now, here we go. Are you ready for this? The Broward County Resource Deputy, okay, this is a guy with a gun, and I'm going to play a video for you, stationed at Stoneman Douglas High School during Valentine's Day massacre, did nothing during the shooting, instead waiting outside as a gunman opened fire on the students and teachers.
For
now, there's even more.
Minutes.
There's even more. I was reading on my way home today that, now this is hearsay, but this is coming out, that the Coral City Police showed up while the Broward County Police were outside, and the Broward County Police did not go in. And the Coral police officer went in front of them. I'm gonna get to that too. So the officer, Scott Peterson, he resigned pending an investigation. Technically, he's at the age of retirement. And he's Sheriff Scott Israel says we're not going to disclose the video. Now, I want to get you. I want to get you that. You can take some comments here. I want to get you where he talks about that. I thought I had it up.
Well, somebody had a question about. I think it was Kate here on Facebook Live, said there's no evidence or witnessing of Cruz shooting anyone. I think that that's not true. There have been students that have come forward, real students, confirmed in the yearbook and with their student IDs, that have said that they saw Cruz shooting at them. So that, I think, is one of those fake news. However, Kathy is saying don't leave out MK Ultra mind control. They can use cell phones these days to set out signals. Listen, I am not discounting anything at this point. Right, I want to tell you guys something really, in my opinion, about this shooting. I'm encouraged, even with the stupid CNN town hall and their little Fantastic Four students that they're parading around everywhere. Unlike with even Sutherland Springs, which we did get a chance to speak to the hero there who saved the church or saved these people or took down this guy with an AR-15, by the way.
We didn't.
I said he.
Oh, I thought you said we got a chance to speak to.
didn't, if I said that, I didn't mean to say that. My point is,
I was thinking the other day, I was like, I wonder if we could get him on.
No, we might be able to. But anyway, with the Las Vegas shooting, with Sandy Hook, we are seeing a massive amount of people that are coming out speaking out about this. It really did happen, so I want you guys to know that. The victims are real. With Sandy Hook, it was very, very fishy. Even with Las Vegas,
all the
very,
parents
very
were
fishy.
Weird. All these parents are real. Those parents were weird. There was
Trump had a kind of a roundtable discussion with these victims, their families, the victims' families, and they are real people. So I want to lay that to rest. I want you guys to be encouraged that with this, I think the truth will come out. That school has surveillance cameras, and so they were able to track this shooter throughout. They know exactly what happened. And while there were surveillance cameras in Las Vegas,
and here's the thing,
I think that got like confiscated by the FBI.
Happened before, I believe, the real era of we're not letting this go.
Yeah.
Like Twitter and Facebook, we're not letting this go, right? Like with Las Vegas, we're not letting this go. Right. Now, first I'm going to play for you the video where Sheriff Israel talks about Scott Peterson here.
Scott Peterson was absolutely on campus through this entire event. He was armed. He was in uniform. After seeing video, witness statements, and Scott Peterson's very own statement, I decided this morning to suspend Scott Peterson without pay, pending an internal investigation. As is his right, Scott Peterson chose to resign because he has the necessary time with the agency and meets the requirements of retirement. He resigned and /retired. The investigation will continue. We're not going to disclose the video at this time, and we may never disclose the video, depending on the prosecution and the criminal case. But what I saw was a deputy arrive at the west side of Building 12, take up a position, and he never went in.
There's another piece to that where he does say, what should he have done? And he says, what should he have done? He said, should have gone in. He should have engaged the suspect. Sometimes.
Here's the thing. When it comes to being an armed guard at a school, unfortunately, it's not a job that anyone with half a brain should choose. You want to know why? Because it is your job, just like being a Secret Service detailman, to put your life on the line. I understand in certain situations where there are hostages or whatever, why they don't engage, they don't go in because they may kill somebody. But when you have a student or a person of any nature that is already shooting, they are already firing, okay? This is not a hostage situation where you kind of stand outside and like, well, if we don't do anything, maybe he won't keep shooting. He's already shooting, okay? So in that case, you know, with a hostage, we don't want to lose more lives than we have to or whatever. This is not that situation. He is shooting, and the only person on that campus capable of stopping him stood there for 4 minutes and never went in.
We would divulge information as it became available to us.
Go in and do it. And he did it. I don't think he was a coward. I don't think he froze. My official position is that he was told not to do it. And this guy may be involved.
Involved in
I think that he was
23
That's my
type
conspiracy
calls
theory anyway.
involving the killer in some way, shape, or form, or his brother. Some of the calls we responded directly out and met with his mother. Perhaps he was on scene. Some of these were made via phone call. In 2 of these cases, and you have a color-coded spreadsheet, after being briefed by Internal Affairs, I've restricted 2 of our deputies while we delve further into this, take statements, and make a decision whether or not they could have done more or should have done more. It's a fluid investigation. They are on restrictive duty. In the case of Scott Peterson, our school resource deputy, I want to clarify any rumors, conjecture, or stories that have been out there. Scott Peterson was absolutely on campus through this entire event. He was armed. He was in uniform. After seeing video, witness statements,
didn't we just listen to this?
Yeah, but we're going to get to
and Scott Peterson's very own statement.
I love how whoever that was, NBC cut it off at the end.
I decided this morning to suspend Scott Peterson without pay and chose to resign because he has the necessary time with the agency and meets the requirements of retirement.
Let him retire.
He resigned and /retired.
Take home his pay.
The investigation at this time, and we may never disclose the video, depending on the prosecution and the criminal case. But what I saw was a deputy arrive at the west side of Building 12, take up a position, and he never went in. He went on his, I think he got on his radio at a point in time, and he took up a position where it looked like he could see the westernmost entry into the building and stayed where he was. Never went in. Devastated. Sick to my stomach.
I don't trust this guy as far as I can throw him.
I mean, these families lost their children. We lost coaches. I've been to the funerals. I've been to the homes where they sit and shiver. I've been to the vigils. It's just, there are no words.
Where's the part where he says he should have killed the killer?
What side are you at?
I don't know. It's the Sun Sentinel. He says he should have killed the killer. Nobody wants to play the spot. It's really bugging me now that they don't want to play the spot.
It makes total sense why they don't want to play it. It was probably one of those oops things. We got to scrub that from the internet anywhere, and they have the resources to do that.
Anyway, listen to the whole thing, and I'm going to find it. All right. Shocked and outraged. 4 Broward deputies waited outside the school as children were massacred.
And this is on Zero Hedge.
Coral Springs police officers were stunned and upset to learn that 4 other Broward County cowards were stationed outside the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School and had not entered to face an active shooter. Sources with the Coral Springs, Florida Police Department told CNN. As the details behind the police response to the Valentine's Day massacre emerged, it appears that the Coral Springs Police Department, which sent 130 officers to the scene, they have that many, put their lives on the line, while Broward County officers simply waited for backup as the scene unfolded.
No, they didn't sit there and wait for backup. I gotta tell you guys, this is too fishy not to throw this out there as a conspiracy theory, but it's not just a conspiracy theory if it's the truth. I don't think that it is a coincidence that both the security guard and these police officers stood down. I think they were told to stand down. And I think that if they're worth their salt, they will come out and they will admit it, but they probably never will because there's something very tight-knit that happens within these police officer communities. And it would make sense that Scott Peterson was part of the same units as these police officers that stood there, so they have the same chief, they're getting the same barking orders, and then the was it Coral Springs, they're probably not getting the same barking orders. They're probably not getting from the top down. I don't know that anybody anticipated the fact that they would show up. Maybe they did, I don't know, but I don't think that it was within their plan there for the Coral Springs police to show up and be like, wait a minute, and they literally had to sidestep, from what I understand,
right,
to get into engage the situation.
So the Coral Springs officers put their lives on the line while the Broward County cowards waited for backup in what some Coral Springs officials perceived to be a dereliction of duty. So it seems to be a constant thing. Now, this would make sense. why they never did anything about Cruz in the first place.
Right.
Why the deputy didn't go in. I mean, this is a constant
But you all know that if all of our guns were gone, this never would have happened. It has nothing to do with the FBI or the dropping the ball, or these police officers dropping the ball, or this armed security guard dropping the ball. None of that has anything to do with it.
Speaking of that, if you put in Scott Peterson, the students and everybody on the left is running to Scott Peterson's defense, saying, oh, he just had a pistol and he was against an AR-15. Well, how did he know he was against an AR-15? You're a police officer. You don't think to yourself, I may not be able to engage the suspect, or I may be
more heavily armed than
or something.
I am.
You go in. That's your job. You
I don't
take
care
an
if the suspect has an RPG. You go in and take him down. I mean, seriously, this is what you do. This is your job. This is what you are hired for. Should this guy get his retirement?
Listen to this.
No, you didn't do your job.
Huff got word from his girlfriend there was a shooter in the freshman building. He rushed in that direction. He heard the gunshots.
Got two playing.
And he saw school resource officer Scott Peterson.
The school resource officer was behind a stairwell wall, just standing there. And he had his gun drawn, and he was just pointing it at the building. And you could, shots started going off.
Sorry. It doesn't play very well when I do that.
You could hear them going off over and over again.
Brandon says Coach Aaron Feist risked his life and ran inside to help. But he says Officer Peterson didn't move.
He was pointing his gun at nothing. He was pointing his gun at just a building, kids in it. And he was just talking on the radio, and he never did anything for 4 minutes.
This is the freshman building where Nicholas Cruz went on his shooting rampage. Brandon says Officer Peterson was behind a stairwell in this adjacent building during the shooting. Here's another angle. This is the stairwell where Officer Peterson remained, never going inside to try and stop the shooter.
Wow.
He's the only one with a gun. He's wearing a bulletproof vest, and all, you know, he has all that while school security guards, you know, coaches pretty much, were running in, shielding kids. Coach Feist, Hickson were running in, shielding kids from bullets and losing their lives while he did nothing.
We tried talking to Officer Peterson at his Boynton Beach home, but were turned away by Palm Beach County deputies who were guarding his house. If Brandon could say something to Peterson,
he got to move, baby.
This is what he would want to tell him.
You're despicable. You know, you didn't do your job. You were trained for this. You were armed. Had a bulletproof vest. You were protected more than anybody else who died, who lost their lives, and you did nothing. You froze. You got scared. You know, you did nothing at all. And you could have saved a lot of lives.
So here's this is a perfect example of what I want to talk to you guys about this whole false flag thing. If this was Sandy Hook, if this was even Las Vegas, we wouldn't be hearing from these real people that are willing to speak out. All right, so I want you guys to understand the difference here.
A deputy arrive, take up a position.
Jeez, where is the killer? You should have killed him. Man, this is driving me insane. All right.
Another thing I want you guys to notice also, when they showed that shot of the freshman building and then where Scott Peterson was hiding out in an adjacent building, this is a pretty big campus.
So this is the school.
On this big campus, they only have one armed and protected person there.
Here's Scott Peterson, by the way, describing himself chasing burglars out of the cafeteria.
Inside the cafeteria. They see me, they saw me peeking through the glass, they obviously fled. I chased them, I'm getting older, but I started chasing them. I identified who I was, and as ironic as it may seem, they ran right towards my trailer. So they ran past, jumped over the fence, I jumped into my car, I apprehended 2 of them at the 4800 block at Coconut Creek, threw them in the back, kept going, grabbed the other 2.
Got it, bada bing, bada boom. What happened here, buddy? What happened here?
He was, I believe, this is my opinion anyway, I believe he was told to stand down, but I can't stress enough just how much I'm upset about the fact that, as that dad said, after 9/11, they put security measures into place. Now, that's a hairy situation, but I can understand why he said that. And he said after 1999 with Columbine, every school in the United States
I found it.
should have been set up with the same security measures as our airports and things like that, you know?
Finally. What should he have done?
Went in, addressed the killer, killed the killer. Went in.
Finally. Let me play that again because it took me so long to find it.
Addressed the killer. Killed the killer.
Finally I found it. Now let's get back to the other cowards. All right, so some Coral Springs police were stunned and upset that the four police officers, 4 of them, 4 original Broward County Sheriff's deputies who were first on the scene did not appear to join them as they entered the school. Coral Springs sources tell CNN it's unclear whether the shooter was still in the building when they arrived. The 4 Broward sheriffs, did you hear in the last piece that we heard him say there are 2 people under investigation right now, in addition to the deputy, right? Right. Including fired high school resource officer Scott Peterson, had their pistols drawn from behind the safety of their vehicles. Not one of them had gone into the school. If I had a bulletproof vest and I had a gun, if I just had a gun, I'm going in there, baby.
I think I'm
going in there.
I don't know if I read the comment, but I meant to. Devonna Wilson had said how many mothers would have gone in just throwing rocks.
Dude, exactly. I hear shooting. If I hear shots, I'm on the phone. I'm looking for a weapon. I'm going to do something. Right. I think that's just a natural instinct. We hear a car accident. I'm out there. I'm doing something.
Right.
If you're a police officer and you've got a bulletproof vest on and a gun
and training,
man alive. 4 Broward County, for the sheriff deputies, including one of them went into the school. The Coral Springs officers, meanwhile, entered the building soon after they arrived on scene to confront the shooter, while the 4 Broward County Sheriff's deputies remained outside until 2 more officers arrived on scene, along with an officer from the neighboring Sunrise City. What these Coral Springs officers observed, though not their feelings about it, will be released in a report, likely next week. Sources cautioned that tapes are currently being reviewed and official accounts could ultimately differ from recollections of officers on the scene. According to the Coral Springs police chief, Anthony Puzzizzi, roughly 40 of the 130 officers rushed into the building after the initial officers responded, where they carried 23 victims. They were the ones who carried the victims out. Why weren't the Broward County police carrying victims out? All right, 20 of whom survived. I can't believe I can't believe that Dana Loesch and the NRA refused to let these 4 Broward sheriff deputies stop the school shooting. 2 days after the shooting, Puzzizzi sent an internal email to his officers obtained by CNN, which reads, I understand that another agency has given the impression that it had provided the majority of the rescue efforts. And that the tremendous work of the Coral Springs Police and Fire Departments has not been recognized. Please know that this issue will be addressed and the truth will come out in time. The resentment among Coral Springs officers towards Broward County officials about what they perceive to be a dereliction of duty may have reached a boiling point at a vigil February 15th, where in front of dozens of others, Coral Springs City Manager Mike Goodrum confronted the Broward County Sheriff.
Wow. I wish that was on video. Does anybody have video of that?
Meanwhile, the Coral Springs Sheriff has publicly commented on the shooting, saying, I've been a police officer for 30 years. Puzzizzi said at a press conference, humans aren't meant to see this kind of tragedy, but the officers went in there, the dispatchers that heard it, the firemen that treated the people, there's obviously a lot of support that needs to be given to them as well. I'm thinking, this is a real one. You train for this day. You hope it never happens. Meanwhile, Broward County Sheriff Scott Israel gave a heartfelt press conference where he condemned the one fired resource officer caught on camera waiting outside. He wasn't actually fired. He was kind of fired. Speaking at a press conference, he said that he waited outside. And the county superintendent, Robert Russi, says, I'm in shock and I'm outraged to no end that he could have made a difference in this at all. It's really disturbing that we had a law enforcement individual there specifically for this reason, and he did not engage. He did not do his job. It's one of the most unbelievable things I've heard. What's more unbelievable, honestly, though, is as I have scrolled through Twitter, I have seen thousands and thousands of people defending this guy, saying he was outgunned. He was outgunned. He knew he couldn't do anything at all. He probably couldn't have done anything to save anybody, even though he had a gun and a bulletproof vest.
Seriously? You're not outgunned by a 19-year-old who doesn't have the same training that you have. Okay? You're not outgunned.
Broward Sheriff Israel to the NRA spokesman says, you are not standing up for these students. But,
you know who's outgunned? That coach that laid his life in front of those students. He was pretty much outgunned, and it didn't stop him. Like Devonna said, moms would have gone in with rocks anything to take this kid down.
And then there's a clip here. It's not coming up, but just a few months earlier, Sheriff Israel said, if you have a lone wolf assassin that's committed a crime, commit great carnage and killing people, there's nothing you can do about it. But he is blaming the NRA. He is blaming Dana Loesch. He is angry. He wants to take your guns too. This guy is not a good guy. So I don't know what's playing. I don't know what's going down. But this stuff stinks to high heaven. And in addition, you've got the FBI, Broward County, and the teachers stood down as well. The administration, who knew he was bringing knives and bullets to school so much that he wasn't allowed to wear a backpack, but that wasn't enough to expel him. Right. Michelle and I were talking about this. If a 5-year-old brings in a plastic knife.
No. Or it's more than that. If a 5-year-old goes like
bang,
this
bang,
to another 5-year-old, you ain't coming back to school for a whole year.
Child. A 5-year-old. I don't know what to say anymore about that. So there was that. We're going to get to that. This is a random thing. A woman was arrested after ramming car into the White House security barrier. Just today. The White House has been placed on lockdown after a woman driving a minivan drove into a security barrier near the White House. Remember that was happening? Some black lady was running around? Mm-hmm. And was immediately apprehended by Secret Service. According to the Secret Service Twitter account, the car struck a barrier at the corner of 17th Street Northwest and East Street Northwest, closer to the Eisenhower Executive Office building adjacent to the White House rather than the White House proper. The EEOB includes the offices of the U.S. Vice President Mike Pence, among other offices. And then Trump was talking to Australian Prime Minister today, and security was elevated. The female officer was immediately apprehended.
But we do know, just because it's been that way for many years, that cars are not generally able to reach the perimeter gates of the White House, certainly not by the North Lawn, where for many years they've been.
It'll be interesting to see the motive if it comes out.
Nothing was breached. I don't know if she was just drunk or whatever. So yeah, you had some Secret Service people making their way in. So I just random thing. So here's another angle. I don't know if you guys saw Tucker Carlson last night, but this delightful young man. Well, you know what? Let's just tell you.
He's a junior ROTC member who was supposed to go to.
Colton, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me. And before we get into anything, I
believe he was one of the dudes who pulled down the Kevlar and saved. Like, this is a hero. They should have been praising this kid at the CNN town hall. They should have been talking about what he did. Maybe we should have more Kevlar blankets in schools or something like that. Maybe he has some ideas. I mean, this worked for them.
Right.
Just want to make sure that everybody hasn't forgotten why we are actually here tonight. I mean, we lost 17 lives last week, and
yes,
I actually physically put 2 to rest, and to me that was the hardest thing in the world to endure. I mean, nobody should have to go through this. So as long as we're taking the right steps to move forward from this and make sure that this doesn't happen again, I'm all for that.
Well, we certainly haven't forgotten. Thank you for reminding us yet again. And we think that the only way to make the country better and maybe put a dent in this scourge is to have a rational, thoughtful conversation about what to do next. And with that in mind, you were planning to go to this event last night. And tell me if I'm mischaracterizing any of this. And you sent in, at the request of a CNN producer, you sent in a number of questions, statements you wanted to make, questions that you wanted to ask of the politicians on the stage, and they rewrote one of your questions? Is that right?
Yes, sir. So what had happened was 4 days ago, I had gotten contacted by a lady named Carrie Stevenson from CNN. She had asked me originally to just write a speech. It was going to be at the town hall at the BB&T Center, so I agreed. I felt like it would be the right thing to do, be able to go speak my part, as well as open eyes to a few things that I thought that could make this situation a little better. From there, 3 days ago, so the next day after that, we had gotten, I got an email back from her, and she asked for more of questions rather than a speech. which I was totally fine with. So I wrote little less of a speech and more of questions that I wanted to ask at the town hall. The day after that, it was more of just questions. She asked for just questions that I would like to ask. So I gave her my questions, and then yesterday at about 5:15, I made contact with her, and she had asked if I just asked her one question. So what they had actually done was wrote out a question for me, because in my interview with CNN, I had talked about arming the teachers if they were willing to arm themselves in the school to carry on campus. And they had, she had taken that of what I had briefed on and actually wrote that question out for me. So I have that question here if you'd like me to ask it for you.
By the way, he has it printed out. He's letting everybody know. I mean, this is a real deal. He has email proof. He's not afraid. He's not hiding anything.
Right.
Well, but I just want to make sure I have this straight. So you sent them a long, in effect, essay on what you thought, but they put
Yes,
their
sir.
own words in the question, and they weren't the same as the words you had sent in. They were the producer's words?
Absolutely. They had taken what I had wrote and what I had briefed on and talked about, and they actually wrote the question for me.
But not with your words. I mean, they put their own words into your question, even after they'd asked you to send questions in. But that seems dishonest.
It definitely did, and that's kind of why I didn't go last night. Originally, I had thought that it was going to be more of my own question and my own say, and then it turned out to be more of just a script. And she had actually said that over the phone that I needed to stick to the script.
That's remarkable. What did you watch last night?
I watched a little bit of it. I kind of felt like I didn't really need to, because I knew that as soon as what had happened with me, that it was going to be more scripted and wasn't actually going to be actual questions. Then I didn't feel the need to fully watch it.
So if CNN was willing to reword your question, put their own words in your mouth, and as you said, you didn't want to go along with that, do you think they did that to other people last night?
I mean, absolutely. From what I did see, I'd seen a couple people that had asked questions before I did leave my house. And it was a little piece of paper cut out. And I know for a fact that nobody cut their own paper out and wrote their own question, especially when they were all based off the same topic. So to me, from right there, it showed that this isn't correct. Why are they all have the same size piece of paper with a short little question on it? So to
I
me,
guess
it was a total
what's
waste of
surprising is
my time,
you're not just some person off the street. You're a survivor of this shooting, and the point was to listen to you, to the survivors of the shooting. Were you surprised by the way they behaved?
I mean, honestly, it was very shocking to me, because we just went through such a horrific tragedy. For them to take that and now make such a big news cast over what they want to hear, it was very upsetting to me.
It's shocking to us too, trust me, in the actual journalism business. Colton, thank you.
So I wish that they had actually let him read the question.
Right.
But I understand Tucker wants to get to a little bit more, Tucker has his own questions that aren't scripted. He's just, wanting to ask. So I think that he probably didn't realize he was going to run out of time, and the kid wasn't going to get to read his question.
This is I want to show you another father and daughter who talk about the scripting here.
Marjorie Stoneham Douglas High School junior Ariana Klein survived the shooting. She and her father, Andrew Klein, join us now from Parkland, Florida, after attending yesterday's listening session with the president at the White House. It's very good to see both of you. Thank you for joining us. I know how difficult this situation has been, although we can't really understand it and what you've all gone through. You were amazingly poised yesterday, Ariana, at that White House event. I watched every minute of it, and I know the country and just is rallying to all of you. And your reaction to this news that we just learned a few hours ago about how the security detail who did have a weapon didn't enter the building. Your reaction to that?
Well, as a father, Laura, and thank you for having us, it's just maddening to hear that news. When you put your faith in the law enforcement to act to protect your children, and then they fail to act, it's just inexcusable. It highlights the other failures that led to this tragedy, that contributed to this tragedy, which was the breakdown at the FBI. They failed to act on the tips that they had, the prior failures of the BSO. So I think that people need to be held accountable. These deputies have apparently been held accountable, but I think we need to continue to look at who's responsible for their failures to act in these circumstances.
Ariana, also in the investigation, they found out that the security camera footage that I guess the officials on the scene at the time were reviewing was delayed. So they weren't getting real-time information.
Did you guys know that? They set up the security footage and they were supposed to have real-time footage from the school. They could always just check what's going on in the school, like that one we saw in Indiana. However, what they didn't know is when they set it up, there's a 26-minute delay.
That's not even fathomable. It will do you absolutely no good to have a 26. It'll do you no good to have a 5-minute delay. I mean, seriously.
It really doesn't do as much good. I mean, you need to know
you need real time. With the technology that we have today, there is no reason why they can't have instant.
Yeah.
About what was happening inside the building. There was a several-minute delay, so they were reacting to things that had already happened, which kind of defeats the purpose, don't you think? Ariana, your reaction?
Yes. Yes, well, I think it's disgusting that a police officer on campus, he knew his job, and for him not to enter the building where harmless, like innocent children were being shot is just disgusting. And I think that in regards to the technology department and the fact that the security footage was 20 minutes delayed, it should never have happened, and that's one of the simple issues that everyone can agree on that needs to be fixed. We need to be proactive instead of reactive, and we can't have these security footages being looked at after the matter.
Last night at the big CNN town hall event, there was a lot of raw emotion. One of the students who wanted to attend but didn't attend because he was upset that to him it seemed like his question was being scripted for him. He spoke out tonight on Tucker's show. I want to play it for you and get your reaction. Let's watch.
Here, let's get research.
That the CNN denies this, by the way, but they have a history of planting questions that Michelle Malkin and others have written about before in other events. But Colton Hobb, who gave that interview, was emphatic about his point.
Yes. Well, I think the whole point of the town hall meeting was to hear the kids and hear what we had to say. And for that to happen is inexcusable. Our voices need to be heard, and he should have been able to ask any question he had to ask. But instead, we have these networks that don't want us to give our real opinions, and they want us to further their own agendas.
Andrew, it seemed like most of the students, Andrew, had the same opinion on what to do, namely to ban certain weapons, to trash the NRA, to be really disrespectful to Marco Rubio, and nasty things being said to Dana Loesch, who was there. But they all seemed to be pretty much in agreement, as far as I could tell. There was no diversity of opinion among either the students or anyone else that I saw, even in the audience.
And Laura, that's not surprising at all. I actually spoke to a CNN producer on Thursday, the day after the shooting, and the producer insinuated to me they were looking for people who were willing to espouse a certain narrative, which was taking the tragedy and turning it into a policy debate, and I read that as being a gun control debate. And unfortunately, I think a lot of the people talking about gun control don't understand what they're talking about, because I'm a Republican, I'm a gun owner, I'm a responsible gun owner. And when we talk about gun control, it's not about taking guns away from people like me. It's about keeping them out of the hands of the people who should not have them, who are irresponsible, who are a threat to society. And when, last night when Ted Deutsch kept repeating his mantra that he wants to eliminate any gun that can fire 150 rounds in 6 minutes, that's almost every gun that's out there. So this supposed assault weapons ban, these other items they're talking about, aren't going to accomplish anything, along those lines. So I agree we need to make some headway.
Okay, Patriot Gallery.
This is just right off the top of my head. I was thinking outside the box. In the 50s, before the Civil Rights Movement, in the South, you would have whole counties, you would have whole states who were so prejudiced that they would always get the white people off, and black people would go to jail for things they didn't do, and they would get framed for things they didn't do. Yeah. And I've been looking at this situation, I thought, oh my gosh, they keep saying, let's do something about it. We want to end this. And that's what the county keeps saying, and the people down there keep saying, we want this to never happen again. Well, then, you don't want this to happen never again. You have to get somebody from Wyoming, South Dakota, Idaho, somewhere nobody's ever heard of, go down there, investigate the law officials down there, go down there, investigate the FBI down there, go down, investigate the school, the teachers. We know that these people hate Trump. We know these people, even the schools, have an agenda to become communist. And we have to understand that these people would do this. They would set this up, allow this to happen, tell the guard to stand down, and they would kill these children, because it's written in the CIA documents, to cause America to lose their guns. Right. So I would get somebody who's maybe even from another country to investigate the situation, who we know has nothing in this, it wouldn't affect them. No invested interest in this situation, who can be totally honest and get into everything, have full permission to get into all the records, everything, because 20-minute delays, the cop right outside, I mean, the FBI knew, well, did the FBI know and use this? Did the teachers know and use this? Right. I mean, it just seems so set up that he murdered these children.
Yeah. I want to play for you this little clip here. This is a teacher, not from the school, but she says, listen, I would take a bullet for these kids. Why not give me a chance to fight back in the process?
I became a teacher because I love children. I love children, and I would do anything for them. And if that means taking a bullet, then yes, I will take a bullet for my children. But why not give me the chance to also fight back in the process?
Why not? Why not?
It's so simple.
So I was hearing Donald Trump today in the speech. We're going to talk about that. And he said, oh, people are all upset because they said I want to arm all teachers. He's like, I don't want to arm all teachers. But he said, in every school, you have like a 10, 15, 20% of the teachers are responsible gun owners, and they have concealed carry permits, or they've gone through training, and they'd be happy to conceal carry in the school. If it's not safe for a concealed carry person to conceal carry in the school, it's not safe for them to conceal carry anywhere. And like here's the thing. If I know a lot of people conceal carry, they just or just open carry. And if they're in school and they're realizing, you know, the football coaches who went in there, they would have gone in there, they would have engaged him, they would have found cover, and they would have taken him down, and lives would have been saved. One of them was a Trump supporter, one of them was a gun owner, and he would have taken him down. And so hindsight is 20/20, and we can talk about these things, but they should have been actually dealt with.
These things. They don't let you
before.
talk about these things,
churches,
and that's the point.
Here's the thing: I've never heard of any church member that I know of, a church member coming in and blowing people up. It's always somebody outside, and usually in these church shootings, a lot of times you'll find that there's a concealed carry person in the in the sanctuary, and that leads me to this guy. Meet the hero in the Texas church shooting, a former NRA instructor. This man is amazing. If you watch his interview, he's crying, he's in tears. And there was
the dude ran out of his house without any shoes on. He ran a block down the street with no shoes on, with his AR-15 rifle in hand.
He just kept hearing shots, and so he just went in the area of the shots. Eventually, he pulled another guy over, or probably another gun owner, and they engaged the suspect, and they got him. They shot him. They took him down. Yep. And the thing of it is he took him down with an AR-15. All right, this is a good guy with a gun taking down a bad guy with a gun.
A good guy with a gun that is incredibly perfect for taking down a bad guy with a gun.
And why was he ready? He was an NRA instructor. He had been trained. He's a trainer. And so instead of, we should have better training, more training.
The thing that really bothers, I think, these young students that are speaking out, like this ROTC, junior ROTC member, is that there are realistic ideas that could really help. I think we showed on Wednesday evening the school in Indiana that has put in a lot of measures. They have smoke, they have cameras, they can do all these things. Well, I loved the Kevlar idea. Why not have like rolling, like, you know, those old window things you could pull the blinds down and it was like on a roller. Why not have something like that could drop down
and here's the
in
thing,
front of the doors so that they can't shoot through the doors?
It's great, and we should talk about these things, but this particular instance would never have happened at all. We wouldn't even be talking about these things.
Right. I know, but what I'm saying is the fact that the junior ROTC member who would have brought a solution like that to the table probably
wasn't even allowed to speak.
Wasn't allowed to speak shows their agenda. It also shows that, like Dana Loesch says, these people love mass shootings, and she says it's for ratings because she'll sound like a quack if she'll say, but I don't care about sounding like a quack. They're doing it because it's a gun grab. It's not for ratings. CNN is behind the gun grab. They're all together. They're all owned by the same George Soroses of this world.
Right. I'm going to play a little bit of a clip of this because these kids, there is a petition going on in Fox News to allow for a whole nother open forum for kids who on the other side of the spectrum.
Is a student from Marjorie Stoneham Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, Brandon Minoff. Brandon, thank you for joining us. I know this has been
this might have been the
beyond
one.
horrific.
Maybe they work together.
A week for students to recover from what they endured.
They do. They both have blue eyes.
Bury their friends. Try to empathize with one another and try to learn something.
He was with his little brother.
Just how are you doing a week after this? You've seen a lot of your fellow students react. A lot of them are very angry, and rightly so. But your thoughts?
I'm getting through it. It's been a pretty, I wouldn't say good, but I've been getting through it. Have some rocky moments, but I'm managing.
Brandon, you made a reference yesterday or the day before to what the media had been doing to push an agenda throughout
this
thousands
tragedy. Of people down there with cameras. They're just hounding these children, not allowing them to heal.
Get your reaction.
It's not about allowing them to heal. Right. It's take a good.
This is a new start with a kind of a new group of activists who might have some impact.
We have a new greatest generation. The strength, the power, the emotion, the
Obama's
take action attitude of those students.
It's a youth movement. This time, it's going to be different. You know, at other times we see lawmakers say, it's too soon, we can't talk about it. But because of social media, these students have said, don't speak for me. I want to talk about it. I want to go to Washington. I want to go to Tallahassee.
But you're silencing the voices of the students that also want to talk about it from the other side.
I definitely think it's a youth movement, but I feel like not all the youth is being listened to. I feel like the conservative side of it is being ignored. It's just pushing gun control.
Did you happen to see Andrew Pollock today, who spoke about his daughter, Cheyenne, who died, and his 3 sons were standing with him at the White House, and he basically said, there's a time you don't have a conversation about guns, you can have a conversation, but right now we got to make sure these schools are equipped to handle these types of attacks. You could tell he was really annoyed, it seemed, with what he was hearing about, let's go after the guns, the AR, whatever the gun of, they say the gun of choice is. He found that to be an unhelpful part of the conversation. And all day, my producers and I were wondering, are there any students out there who, maybe think focusing on that issue almost exclusively is the wrong approach? And your answer to that would be?
It's definitely the wrong time to be speaking about it. It's been a week. We're still mourning the loss of our loved ones. And they're just still talking about what kind of guns to outlaw, outlawing guns, the kind of laws to create. But 17 people just died at the hands of a human. Humans control guns.
Brandon, the assistant football coach,
he hasn't been scripted, by
died
the way.
in another brave act of selflessness and self-sacrifice. And I know you're on the football team. How's the team doing, given what you guys as individuals have suffered, the friendship you had with Coach Aaron, and how are you doing?
People are managing. It's a sad situation to know that he's gone. He was a great man, great leader, always enjoyable to be around and talk to, cracking jokes, helping everybody out. It's just sad to know that he's gone. Won't be able to use his mentorship anymore.
How do you think school will be when you return to campus, I guess next week, after there'll be a week of more, protests in Tallahassee? I think we have some of the audio of what happened today with some of your fellow students. I guess quite a few, hundreds, showed up in Tallahassee chanting. They're going to vote various legislators out who don't vote for particular bans. It got pretty heated, and they were screaming and very, very upset. But I didn't hear a lot of diversity of thought. I heard mostly one side.
It doesn't seem like they're looking to hear from the other side. It's two sides to every story, but they only want to hear one.
What would you say the makeup of the student body is politically? Is it pretty diverse, or is it split down the middle, or could you not even tell?
I personally feel it's diverse. I have friends who are on both sides of the situation. It's in a very diverse area, 2 different cities, close to another county. It's just definitely diverse.
Zach Lesk, a student at your school, said the following about the situation. Oh, sorry about that. It's a full screen. He said, we can't have people walking around with automatic weapons. They're made for mass murder. And, obviously, automatic weapons have been banned since, about almost 100 years ago. So the AR-15 is not an automatic weapon, but that's just if you're not familiar with guns, or if you don't know, I think that's what kind of people think and believe. And I feel bad for a lot of these kids because they don't, I didn't know anything about this when I was 15 and 16 years old. I just didn't know.
Yeah, but I feel like they're uninformed and they're just following along the popular opinion, but they clearly don't know what they're talking about.
Brandon, we wish you the best, and thank you for having the courage to speak.
I love this. So while we're on the topic of students, I wanted to give you guys kind of a follow-up here. I emailed Nick. For those of you that don't know, when we went live on February 14th, we actually went live that day about the shooting. One of the victims, one of the students that was there during the student, his name is Nick, found us during our live show, and some of the people in the chat suggested we do a Skype, and so I asked him to email me, and we did a Skype with him, and his name is Nick, and he gave us a lot of really helpful information. Sometimes you have the conspiracy theory people that question everything. They're like, well, what if he's a plant? He got out his yearbook and he showed us the photo of Nicholas Cruz I know. However, I've been following up with him all week, kind of asking him how he's doing and things like that. But he
said, I would love to chat one day again. You guys made me feel better.
I asked him specifically about David Hogg, because that was a big question. And he said, David Hogg is indeed a real student at our school. He is in the yearbook, and I see him often. And then he goes, and I had asked him about the differences, what he thinks about what's going on in the media. And he does think that there is kind of this push and pull between what's happening in the media and the agenda and stuff. And he was just saying, you know what, the surveillance footage needs to come out, but I don't know how long it's going to take. And then I asked him, I told him we were going to go live this evening if he had wanted to Skype. He said he's on a road trip, but he said that he would love to talk to us, so hopefully we'll have him on probably next week.
If we're still talking about this topic.
He says that they will be going back to school on Tuesday with a modified schedule. So hopefully we will hear back again. I know we will, from Nick, but I wanted to kind of give you guys a follow-up there on that.
We've been going live for a while, and we promised Donald Trump and Nigel Farage, so if you're still with us, we're going to end with a bang. I'm not going to play all of Donald Trump's speech, but it was lively and it was fun, and I listened.
An hour and 15 minutes.
I listened to it as I made tortillas and an apple pie.
Hang on. She didn't just make tortillas, people. She made sopapillas. If you're not familiar with what a sopapilla is, it's so good. Okay, so she makes these tortilla shells, or tortillas, just tortillas, not shells, from scratch. You see my mouth watering?
Every time we went to a Mexican restaurant, he's like, I just love their sopapillas, and I'm like, what is that? So
this, my friends, is a sopapilla. It's a fried tortilla with sugar and cinnamon and...
I'm not gonna leave them there. Are you gonna eat it on camera?
Yeah.
Over the plate, and it's dripping. You can't eat the whole thing. Put it back. Not on camera.
You're just gonna play Trump. I can eat it. Don't take my sopapilla.
All right, so Trump.
Be so sad.
I'm gonna play the beginning here and then a couple clips. Like I said, I watched the whole thing. It's well worth watching the whole thing.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
He talks about the shooting. Talks about.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Matt.
The
for
deputy.
that great introduction, and thank you for this big crowd. This is incredible. Really incredible. We've all come a long way together. We've come a long way together.
So good.
I'm thrilled to be back at CPAC with so many of my wonderful friends and amazing supporters and proud conservatives. Remember when I first started running?
So you're right, David Hogg. Unfortunately, this child has an agenda, and he's very slimy. And his dad's a former FBI agent, so I think it's one of these parents are living through their children.
Jack Russell, you're right. Leah doesn't like me to eat on screen.
Politician, fortunately. But do you remember I started running, and people say, "Are you sure he's a conservative?" I think now we proved that I'm a conservative. Right?
This whole speech was
hilarious. I laughed the entire time.
I wish we could just play it the whole thing.
For more than 4 decades, this event has served as a forum for our nation's top leaders, activists, writers,
you can tell
thinkers.
He's blah, blah, blah.
Year after year, leaders have stood on the stage to discuss what we can do together to protect our heritage, to promote our culture, and to defend our freedom.
Freedom.
CPAC has always been about big. We're hanging in. We're hanging in there, right? Together,
you just skipped the whole thing.
I missed ever before in American history.
Yes, you did, because that's when he says we're hanging in there.
Okay.
Right?
I didn't want to hear any more about CPAC because it's boring.
By the way, what a nice picture that is. Look at that. I'd love to
ready?
watch that guy speak.
That's himself.
Let's see.
Look how he's changing it. Look how
I try like hell to hide that bald spot, folks. I work harder. Doesn't look bad. Hey, we're hanging in. We're hanging in. We're hanging in there, right? Together, we're hanging in.
Wait, okay, Horatio had told me that I guess last week he got off a plane and it split like wings in the back.
And we are going to be putting in a lot more.
I think that's what he said.
And they will interpret the law as written. And we've confirmed an incredible new Supreme Court Justice, a great man, Neil Gorsuch. Right? We've passed massive, biggest in history, tax cuts and reforms. You know, I don't use the word reform. There was a lot of reform. It was only one person. So we have thousands of people here.
I was talking about John McCain there. But I have a couple clips already ready.
Motto is, in God we trust.
He's talking about Billy Graham.
And this week our nation lost an incredible leader who devoted his life to helping us understand what those words really mean. Leader. He was a leader. He's a great man. We will never forget the historic crowds.
It's a big deal.
That voice, the energy, and the profound faith of a preacher named Billy Graham.
He's clapping for him. I love it.
Do you like that Trump's tie exactly matches the CPAC?
Great man and great family, Franklin Graham, great family. And they were for us. I'll tell you, they were for us. Right from the beginning, they were for us.
And that's true. Anne Grant.
As a young man, Billy decided to devote his life to God. That choice not only changed his life, it changed our country. And indeed, it even changed the world.
True.
Reverend Graham's belief in the power of God's word gave hope to millions and millions who listened to him with his very beautiful but very simple message. God loves you.
Somebody in the background, yes, God loves you. All right, so while we're on that topic, because I know you have some more clips, but one of our viewers, Bill Burnett, we quote from him a lot. He sends us stuff in the mail. He was integral during the civil rights movement. He was there during a lot of things that were going on. He helps red pill people. This has been his kind of life's work. And he sends me an email today, and he says, my folks took me to a Billy Graham crusade when I was 5. It was held in a big circus tent in Tulsa in 1952, and it's still one of my most vivid memories. God was there. I was baptized by a minister who was his roommate in seminary. So Billy Graham touched so many lives, and I'm really pleased that Donald Trump gave him, let's just take a second and put this into perspective. Let's say that this had happened during President Obama's presidency. I don't think that it would have, it would not have felt the same at all. He would not have come out and said we're a Christian people, you know, that sort of thing. So thanks for that, Bill.
Salute our great American flag. We put our hands on our hearts for the Pledge of Allegiance. And we all proudly stand for the national anthem.
Now this is a clip that Trump's Twitter tweeted out, by the way. This is very important to him. USA.
So Donna Terry says, Leah and Michelle, do you pack? And I'm not talking about lunch. So here's the thing. This being a Resistance Chicks channel and the fact that there are some psychos out there, I'm not going to tell you whether we pack or not. And I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you why. Because like Dana Loesch pointed out, 93 or some odd % of these mass shootings happen in gun-free zones, in places where these perpetrators know that if they go into this situation, they may not know whether somebody is carrying a gun or whether they are not carrying a gun. So I want to leave you guys always guessing about whether the fact that when Lee and I walk out this door, whether we are carrying a gun or whether we are not carrying a gun.
I will tell you this,
that's really important.
In Ohio, we have concealed carry, but we also have open carry. So
you can legally walk down the street like an Old West.
You do not need a concealed carry permit to just as long as it's in a belt on the outside,
right?
You're okay. In order to put it behind, behind your clothing or in your purse, you need a concealed carry permit. Well, I will tell you, it's very popular where we are at to have a concealed carry permit and to carry a gun,
yes,
and a weapon.
Exactly,
it's a thing that a lot of people are doing.
But I can tell you that I am always walking out of the house with a weapon of some sort, depending on the situation, on whether it needs to be a powerful weapon or just a weapon in general. And then we have Jesus Christ, angels strike you down, that sort of thing. Okay, carry on.
So listen, tomorrow the headline will be protesters disturb the trouble. One person, folks, doesn't deserve a mention.
There was somebody that got in that kind of just heckled.
The headline tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
So people are sitting there, and they're saying, oh, we just had that great victory. Yeah, let's not vote. Let's go to a movie.
Oh, he starts to tell people you got to get out and vote. Let's see.
He fulfilled more promises than he made. I think that's true. I fulfilled more promises.
I love that. I don't think you can fulfill
but we have
more
a very
promises
crooked
than you
media.
make. You can only fulfill all of your promises.
We had a crooked candidate, too, by the way. But we have a very crooked media.
Lock her up. Lock her up. Lock her up. Lock her up. I love what he says here. He's like, well, what I can tell you.
I will say this, folks.
This is
everything
not
that's turning out now, it's amazing. That's come full circle. Boy, have they committed a lot of atrocities when you look. Right? How would you look? Have they done things that are wrong? But remember this. Not only did we get the tax cuts, which everybody said we wouldn't get, and by the way, repealed in that tax cut the individual mandate.
This is a really big deal.
Thing. This is where you're forced to pay in order not to have health care, okay? Is that great?
It's insanity.
You pay for the privilege of not having health care. So you're subsidizing lots of other people. That's gone. I know people came up to me with tears in their eyes. They're saying, I'm forced to pay not to have health care. It's very unfair. And by the way, we're having tremendous plans coming out now, health care plans, at a fraction of the cost that are much better than Obamacare. And except for one senator who came into a room at 3 o'clock in the morning and went like that, we would have had health care too. We would have had health care too. Think of that.
He's so funny
But I think we may be better off the way we're doing it. Piece by piece by piece, Obamacare is just being wiped out. The individual mandate essentially wipes it out. So I think we may be better off. And people are getting great health care plans, and we're not finished yet. But to send it through pipes, we don't have to get it from Paris, climate.
Oh, that was a big deal. Now, you don't have to say all that he said, but I can tell you that he does talk about the Paris Climate Agreement, and so many people cheer. What he said that I thought was really interesting is he said, listen, I could have just signed it, but because I knew that I was going to get a lot of flack for it, but I didn't. And he was actually shocked and has been shocked and surprised. He said, listen, you guys know what's going on. You get it. And he was pleasantly surprised at all of the support that he has had since then. And I love when the American people can even surprise the president about his supporters. You know, I thought that was really cool.
I was a private sector guy, but for whatever reason, I always had these guys always covered me much more than anybody else. I always got a lot of these characters. They used to treat me so good, too, until I ran for office. I used to get the greatest publicity. A friend of mine said, you know, you used to be the king of getting great publicity. What happened? I said, well, I have some views that they're opposed to for a lot of bad reasons. A lot of really bad reasons. But when you look at what's happening to our country, it's incredible.
He's not sending signals, by the way. I talk like this, too. I know
the stock market, I just see with all of the ups and downs since Election Day, is up 37% from election. 37%.
This is kind of funny. I don't really care too much about the
now,
stock market.
It did a little bit of a correction. In fact, I started to say, you know, I was in it for like 13, 14 months from election. I say, is this sucker ever going down a little bit? This is a little embarrassing. It was up 100, up 200, up 1,000, up 150, up 90, up 63. I said, goodness, that's better. You know, hey. We've got 7 years to go, folks. You know, we got a long time to go.
And at one point in his speech, he says, "Listen, don't give up now. You know, he's gonna have to, start campaigning here by the end of the year."
So, thank you, everybody. You've been amazing. You've been amazing. You know what, Matt didn't say, when I was here 2011, I made a speech, and I was received with such warmth.
I had no idea you
and they give, you know, they used to give, I don't know if Matt does that, because you might not want to be controversial, but they used to give the best speech of CPAC. Do they do that still, Matt? Good, you better pick me or I'm not coming back there. But, and I got these, everybody, they love that speech. And it was, I think, Matt, I would say that might have been the first real political speech that I made. It was a love fest. 2011, I believe, the time was. And a lot of people remembered, and they said, we won Trump, we won Trump. And after a few years, I go by and I say, here we are, let's see what we can do. And then that throws it out the window. So I just leave you with this. We have to fight Nancy Pelosi. They want to give your money away. They want to give your money away. They want to end your tax cuts. They want to do things that you wouldn't even believe, including taking your Second Amendment rights away. They will do that. They will do that.
They'll try.
So we have to get out there, and we have to fight in 18 like never before, just the way you fought with us. Just the way you fought with us. You fought so hard, and you were so tough, and you were so smart. You were so smart. And you know what? I know for a fact you did the right thing because we're looking at the numbers, and the numbers, even they have to give credit for the kind of numbers that we're producing. Nobody has ever seen anything like it.
I'm just going to say, yeah. This was something that, you know, the Lord spoke to me when Trump was, you know, in October. Trump needed to get elected. Of course, he had to be elected. And
because it could not be Hillary.
We were elated when Trump was elected. But we all know that the dollar can't continue. And we have to, I keep telling you this because I like to balance out what Trump is saying because, yes, the stock market is up under Trump. Black unemployment is down at historic levels. Hispanic unemployment is down at historic levels. He keeps reminding us of how well the economy is doing. Now, if this was under Hillary Clinton, as he said, I mean, she would be literally etched in stone as a god, right? Because of economics and things like that. Because that was what Bill Clinton said. Well, he might have done this, and this, but the economy was good under Bill Clinton. Well, the economy is becoming, I mean, like, people, car companies don't come back. If they leave, they don't come back, right? So my point is that what the Lord spoke to me, I'm going to let you finish, I'm going to let you say something, but what he spoke to me was...
She'll let me, thank you.
I
said joke.
What he said was that we're going to end up at the same spot.
Right.
Whether Hillary was elected or whether Trump was elected, because everything is going to crash. There are things like, you know, no matter who was president in 2008, it was going to crash. Mm-hmm. Okay. But it's going to be a lot more fun and a lot easier and more enjoyable under Trump. Because if Hillary Clinton had been elected and we saw the doom and gloom coming, it wouldn't have been as easy to prepare. It wouldn't have been as fun. I mean, like, I just can't even, like, I don't even, that's like a scenario I don't even want to think about.
Right.
So what you're seeing is that under Trump, yeah, things are better, but there's things that he can't change. There's things that nothing can change. It's already on a trajectory. They've already been, you know, confiscated our gold. They already confiscated everything. You know, we're not on a gold standard and things like that. So yes, under Trump, things are better, and that's good, and it's better for everyone. Trump's approval rating is actually at 50%, which is like higher than Obama's, which is crazy. But nobody's talking about that because the mainstream media and the liberals hate him. He actually is very, you know, if whatever he says, like, a lot of the liberals should agree with, but it's so weird. But go ahead.
No, it's staggering to me.
Staggering
how many people are still supporting Trump. And I think there are more and more people
are supporting Trump. More people are
coming freshly, like, wait a minute, this guy is actually delivering promises he didn't promise. Like he said, more promises. He's fulfilling more promises than he promised. Okay.
We would be at war with Russia. Yeah, we definitely.
But at the same time, I want you guys to take what Leah just said to heart. The dollar will collapse. It doesn't matter. I mean, it would take God himself to come down and fix the problem that we have in the United States. The number trillion is so large that we can't really wrap our heads around it. And we are trillions upon trillions upon trillions of dollars in debt. And it's not going to go away. It's actually exponentially getting higher and higher and higher. And the only thing that will stop it is the destruction of the Federal Reserve and going back to a gold standard. I hear you guys say me all the time.
Western Australia devil hunter. We know John McCain is a traitor. Can you say that with an address?
We can't go back. A lot of you guys say we can't go back to a gold standard and live the way that we live.
Amen, Alfie Creole. Yes, Woodrow Wilson was evil and started the Fed, and FDR took out the gold.
And the reason why we can't live the way that we live on a gold standard is because it requires, like, the credit system. You guys, anybody going out to buy a house for any kind of amount of money requires the Federal Reserve. So we have the truthers on one side that want to dismantle the Federal Reserve, but without a fiat currency, without the Federal Reserve, the life that we live right now is literally impossible. Credit cards, buying a new car all the time, putting cars on lease.
Think about it. In like in Africa,
none of that can exist on the fiat currency that we have right now.
Imagine if the people in Africa had like our 0% interest rate credit cards. They would build up their economy like that.
Right.
Right? We have this crazy credit system because they have to, the reason the credit system works is because they have to keep cycling in their fake dollars, right? And then they need more because of interest rates, and then they need more, and they cycle them through Americans. They cycle them through us, right? And
they take the cream off the crop. So they take the cream off the crop, off the top, whatever. They're the cream of the crop off the top. They skim it, okay? And it's called the silent tax for a reason. And I know I sound like a broken record with you guys, but it is really important that you start preparing, at least mentally, for the fact that this is going to happen. It cannot continue the way that it is going. It will collapse. The dollar bill will collapse. It's absolutely inevitable that it does. So I want you guys to be prepared. And it's good news. As awful as it sounds, it's actually good news because it's how we're going to get rid of the Federal Reserve.
And get back to good liberty and things like that. Speaking of liberty,
Nigel Farage.
I'm going to start you here in the middle of the speech. We're not going to play all of it. 23-minute speech. We have been looking for it all day. Michelle was pulling her hair out. We're at the look. Justin was like,
Farage?
Where is it? Where is it? We finally found it.
No, we didn't. Justin sent it to me.
Oh, you did?
Worth a look sent it to me.
No, we played it. It came up on SpeedStream because we logged in, remember?
Oh, well, no. I was out helping Matt with the cars.
Okay,
you had it
so you had
playing.
it too. All right. So, here we go.
Horatio tells me that Farage has a new cut of his trousers. More modern.
Oh, there you
Horatio noticed that.
And I think the real inspiration now for the future is going to be the man that appeared on this stage and spoke to you this morning. You know, I was very happy to support in any way I could Donald Trump's campaign back in 2016. I now think, with him over a year into the presidency, it was the best decision I've ever made in my life. I really do.
Everything Farage says,
I really
you just
do.
read the phone book. It's passionate. I want to talk like it's so important. Always.
I thought he'd be good, but I got to tell you, he has exceeded all expectations. He's on the way to being a truly great president of this country.
He's disappointed in some areas.
I really like that shirt, those pinstripe.
And I was
shirt
lucky.
he has.
I was fortunate this morning that shortly after he came off this stage, I got the chance to have a conversation with him.
Striped.
And I must say, my impression of him today was, here was a president at ease with himself. Here was a president in good humour. And here was a president at the very top of his game.
And I want to shake my head like that
So
too.
there's plenty of good news out there, but we must not and we should not underestimate our enemies.
Don't
The establishment are still not reconciled with those shock results as they saw them back in 2016. The establishment, in some ways, are fighting harder to damage the reputation of the president and indeed to try to delay, water down or stop Brexit. These people will never stop.
They will never
and you've
stop.
seen it here in this country that now the mainstream media have actually become the opposition. They're not objectively reporting news.
Correct.
90% of what you see on mainstream media in the States is negative about the president. Mind you.
Mind you.
I suppose given the state the Democrats are in, maybe there needs to be an opposition of some kind in this country. Because they kind of haven't quite got their act together, have they? In fact, I'm hearing stories that maybe they'll nominate Hillary next time round as well.
I love this part. No.
Don't boo, you should jolly well hope they do.
You should jolly well hope they do.
He'll win by a lot more than last time, believe me.
It's true, actually.
But it's reached a level where they themselves are now engaged in some of the most bizarre conspiracy theories. If you read centre-left broadsheet newspapers in this country and in the United Kingdom, you will be aware that I too am a person of interest to the FBI.
Spy.
I love this.
I've read that actually I am at the centre of an international spider's web. I am the one person connecting Trump, Putin, and Julian Assange.
It makes total sense.
I've been running memory sticks back and forth from the White House and the Kremlin to Assange. I mean, I have to tell you, I hadn't realised I was that important. I really hadn't. I'm told the next time I set foot on US soil, I'm going to be arrested. I'm going to be put in front of Mueller because of my Russian connections. Oh, and what is without doubt is that I've been funded by the Russians for my entire political career.
Yes.
Well, let me tell you, I've never been to Russia. I've never been to Moscow. I've never met a Russian operative or agent. I've never done business in Russia. I've never taken money from Russia. I may be guilty of drinking the odd Russian vodka.
That does not surprise me about Nigel. Nope.
But I know from my own part in this story that the whole thing can be summed up by a simple term. It is just fake news, isn't it?
Yes,
it's fake news. And it's fake news to suggest that the president colluded with the Russians in his election campaign. He didn't, but you know what? When this is over, they still won't stop. They still will never accept that their view of the world has been turned upside down. They will keep on fighting. They will keep trying to damage the reputations of everybody involved with the conservative patriotic movement. So we must not underestimate just how powerful our enemies are. Just think of George Soros. He gets a bigger boo in England than that, but anyway, there we are. That's more like it. You know, that Open Society Forum, he has put into that $30 billion, not $30 million, $30 billion. And from what I can see, he is attempting to intervene and disrupt in every single election and cause and campaign that is taking place across the Western world. These people don't believe. People like Soros don't believe in the existence of the nation state. They don't believe as we believe.
Countries, by the
way. Don't we? In basic patriotism and believing in who we are.
Roll one.
They don't believe.
Punch.
They don't believe in national identity. They want us to live in a world with
in one
open
pot,
borders. Boo too. Absolutely. That is what they want, and they're powerful, and they keep trying. And you know, I've sensed, and by the way, this is my third CPAC.
You notice the Appeal to Heaven flag? We have one of those outside. It's still up, right?
They keep inviting me back, and can I say to Matt Schlapp and the team, every year I come back to CPAC. It is bigger and better and more professional than it was the year before. Well done, Matt, and to all of your team. But I've sensed among some of you in the last couple of days a great sense of optimism.
So I want to stop here for a moment. I do believe some of our British viewers have fallen off because we can't cover Nigel every single day. But in the beginning,
I think they're still here. Y'all are still here. We've got some of them in the chat.
You
right
are.
now.
No, I mean we had thousands in the very beginning. Like we were running a British station in the very beginning because we're like, well, if that's who you are, we'll give you British news.
If you can hold your thought for 1 second while this has been on my mind all evening and I want to address this issue. I'm really glad that we have 70 watching and we also have several of you on Facebook Live watching. But just a month ago, when we were going live, we were getting 100, 125, 150 viewers when we were going live. On a good day, you
guys saw we had up to 250,
and our videos were getting thousands of views. We are still, I'm hoping you can hold your thought there. Not forget it. We are still under censorship. I am pulling my hair out dealing with YouTube. And
our baby channel.
It's very discouraging to me that we have, I believe, a lot of good information thanks to many of you who send us things. So it's an interactive channel that we are putting out that can't get out due to the censorship. But I want to let you guys know that we are not discouraged and we're going to keep doing everything that we're doing in spite of the censorship. I don't care if a video only gets 100 views. It's important enough. You guys are important enough to us to keep putting this stuff out there. But just recognize
every time our channel would take another leap forward and get another 1,000 views. I mean, literally in the very beginning, we were getting 100 new subscribers a day.
And I want to also let you know, an example of how their censorship works. When we were able to go live on our Mass Faith 3 channel, which we're trying to get back to that.
That channel got put into a top tier of people could find you more on the live stream.
But one thing that they did to censor us when we were able to go live there and our videos were getting thousands of views, they couldn't stop that because sometimes you just can't stop that momentum. They were pulling subscribers.
Oh, they pulled
by
lots
the
of
25, 50. Every time we would go live, we would lose like 25 or 50 subscribers. Literally, they would just fall off.
The Charlottesville video, I think, flagged us on their main thing. Was like, whoa, 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 what's going on with this channel? Because it had 160,000 views in just a couple days.
Right.
And they were like, wait, this channel. So that gives you an idea of what kind of channel you're at. That's the kind of views that we should be getting on all of our videos, but we're not because they keep putting us in the basement, in the back door, in the wherever.
But the good news is that we're actually able to gain subscribers now that we're not going live and having videos that hit thousands of numbers.
On our Mass Faith 3 channel, they were literally pulling subscribers from our channel because we're not going live there. The subscribers are going up a little bit at a time. And it was so weird. It's a really weird thing.
Important for me to cover this because if you guys didn't catch at the beginning of the show, Leah was saying that Pamela Geller had wanted to put together a panel, had a panel all set up for CPAC to talk about this because we are not an enigma here. It is happening to every truther channel out there. I don't know
Pamela
one
Geller,
that it's not happening to.
Alex Jones, Louder with Crowder, Ben Shapiro, Breitbart. Everybody is experiencing it. Everybody that I go to their things, everybody I see, they're not getting put in search results. Their YouTubes are getting put in the bottom of the basement. You can't search for them. You can't find them. Things like that. So just know that that's what Nigel Farage is talking about when he says they have doubled down.
Yeah,
they have taken off anything. If you ever watched that show V, where the amphibian people, reptilian came down and in human bodies, they have literally taken off their human bodies. We can see for them for the snakes they are, and they don't care how ugly they look. The mainstream media, they're not playing anymore. They're not joking around anymore. It's not a joke anymore.
Like Chris is saying, it happens to the gun channels. You know what? That makes sense, but I want to let you know that it's happening to our fellow homestead channels. It's happened to Go and Batty. It's happened to Big Family Homestead.
Anything Christian, if you're not super lefty liberal, they will put those up to the front.
So like Dana Loesch was saying, we are here and we're not going anywhere. And the beauty about Leah and I not doing this channel for money, which we do not, is that they don't hold anything over us. If we know so many truther channels that had quit their jobs because they were able to pull in $5,000 a month, which, amen, good for them. I'm so glad. We were headed in that direction before we got censored. But because we don't do it for money, they don't have anything to hold over us.
Right.
They have no leverage. And that's the good news. And that's why, that's one of the reasons why we don't ask for donations or things like that, because I don't ever want this to be about money. But I do want you guys to spread the word about the censorship that's happening on Google and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, so that people realize what is happening.
So what I was going to say was that this last speech, maybe throw her a treat, last year, we had just done several Nigel Farage videos, and all these wonderful British people who, now I know you're not England. You guys have schooled us. You're the UK. I get it. You're Great Britain. You're not England. I get it. But actually, kind of, you are whatever. So what was beautiful about this speech with Nigel Farage last year was he talked about the founding of America and America's founding fathers. And a lot of the British people who came to our channel, we tried not to offend them with our founding fathers, because like some of them in the beginning, they did fall off because like we're incredibly patriotic, and we had this thing called the Revolutionary War, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing, in my opinion, the Revolutionary War was a little bit more like the Civil War, in that we were fighting brothers, cousins, relatives.
No, it's like Brexit.
Yeah. Well,
it's Brexit. Yeah. So all of our viewers get that. And I haven't had in a long time anybody have that opinion. Most people are really supportive, and they just tell us, listen, if I were you, nowadays, this is our Brexit. We would be doing the same thing.
Well, that's what we said, but there was a few people said you shouldn't have left, which I thought was hilarious to me. You shouldn't, I was like, well, we're probably not on the same page then. You're not going to understand. If you're for Brexit but not for the American Revolution, I don't see how we can mesh. But anyways, I love Nigel Farage. Listen to the rest of this speech. He's awesome. Like I said, I could listen to Nigel Farage read the phone book because he's so passionate about everything that he says and everything that he does. I love you, Sydney. She wants her dinner. She can't get up and walk around very well, so she needs to have her dinner brought to her. I have a little song. I was going to play River of Life. It just came to me, just an old song.
Get that set up, and I'll do some of the things that I need to wrap up here with. One of those things, somebody's honking their horn out there, okay, is the fact that Revelation, Dawn of Global Government, is still free. It will be free for the next... let's see, how many days are left in this month? Okay, it's going to be until the 28th. All right, however, this is 7 days, 8 days. And I want to pull this up because I don't know how many of you guys saw it or didn't see it.
All of creation. It was a rare, precious pearl.
Scene 5 there. But, so, Lee and I put a video together.
Land of the free.
For Anita and Chuck Untersea, and they've been sharing it.
But this shining city on a hill has turned from the Creator's will, and
www.revelation.info, and that thing will pop up.
Now the reckless men
or you can go
want to strip away their freedom
in our
their very soul. Now it's smoke and mirrors, switching baits, criticize, confiscate, let the guilty walk away.
So there's that. I want you guys to go and see it. This documentary
in
is
this once
absolutely
righteous,
amazing.
godly nation, in the halls of...
We have had a lot of emails. I want you to raise your hand in the chat if you guys... Oh, I'm sorry if the music was too loud there. Sorry, guys. I can't hear it. I did not put my earphones in there. I want you to raise your hand in the chat on Facebook Live and on YouTube if you guys got a chance to watch it and what you thought. Because to me, being armed with the kind of information that they spent years putting that documentary together. You can see Alex Jones is a little bit young there. That's how long they've been working on this thing. Maia says we watched it last night with the family, Michelle. She gives it 2 thumbs up. Christina Anderson said, I watched it all. It was great. I know Eric Mathis said that he had a chance to watch it. Sooks, I don't know if he's here tonight. Brian got a chance to watch it. He's hoping to buy the other 3, the trilogy that they're putting together of more footage that they had. So it doesn't get any better than Chuck and Anita Untersea, I have to tell you, as American patriots that are putting their lives on the line and doing this. So Eric says that I watched it 3 times just to make sure I got it all. Baker Mom says I saw it. Donald Busky, aka Eric, says I'm gonna watch it tonight. So thank you guys for supporting them, and I want you to share it. That link, it's on our Facebook. And it's in our videos on both our Resistance Chicks channel and our Mass Faith 3 channel, the video spot that we did for them. Share that. Let people know this is a top quality documentary that is only going to be free for these 10 days ending on the 28th. So
we're not even selling you anything.
We're not selling you anything. This is free. Just go and get it. Gonzalo says, I watched it. It was well made. Jim West says, we'll watch it. Hope it's sulfur-tastic. Okay. Gary says I haven't seen it yet. Gary, you need to see it. And Kelly, I will put the link in the description. Alfie says I pinned it on Twitter. Have shared the heck out of it. David wants to know when we sleep. Hardly ever. No, we do catch sleep. We do catch sleep. So Sunday on the Facebook Live says, watched it twice and loved it. So thank you guys for that. Also, another order of business that I have to do, and I can thank Gary for this, and Leah's going to get mad at me, but her birthday is March 11th.
Because you know something,
Nigel. You interrupted me. You had Nigel interrupt me on this subject here. Leah's birthday is March 11th, so if you want to send her cards, this whole thing got started last year. I got a P.O. box. And did a big surprise. If you guys weren't subscribers to our channel, go back and view videos from roughly around March 11th. I put out a secret video.
That was a fun time.
And you guys all sent a bunch of stuff in the mail, and it was really, really fun.
Totally surprised.
I also wanted to get a call in to Nigel Farage for Leah's birthday and was able to make that happen only by the grace of God.
That was pretty awesome
so that
too.
started our relationship. I can call it that with Nigel because we've since called in twice now.
Yep.
I'll back this up for Leah. But anyway, her birthday is March 11th, so then I can tell you our mail P.O. Box address is 107 Milford, Ohio 45150, and I'm going to keep reminding you about her birthday until we get to it. So, all right.
It's just a little praise and worship song. But that's not your song. Yeah. Well, what's up on the street? I'm gonna play that later. Oh, okay.
very first songs that Leah ever wrote many, many moons ago.
Yeah, it's just good praise and worship.
I can tell you this: Leah's been playing guitar for longer than some of the people in the chat have been alive. thy presence my life. Be thou my wisdom, and thou my true word. I ever with thee, and thou with me, Lord. Thou my great Father, I thy true Son. Thou in me dwelling, and I with thee one. No, come back.
know.
Okay. Just scrolling down for you.
That's good.
Riches I heed not, nor man's empty praise. Thou mine inheritance, now and always. Thou mine, thou only, first in my heart. High King of heaven, my treasure thou art. I don't think we know that one.
No.
High King of heaven, thy victory won. May I reach heaven's joys, O bright heaven's sun. Heart of mine own heart, whatever befall, still be my vision, O ruler of all. Be thou my vision, O Lord of my heart. Not be all else to me, save that thou art. Thou my best thought, by day or by night, waking or sleeping, thy presence my life.
You sing the next one.
Be thou my wisdom, and thou my true word. I ever with thee, and thou with me, Lord. Thou my great Father, I thy true Son. Thou in me dwelling, and I with thee one. Riches I heed not, nor man's empty praise. Thou mine inheritance, now and always. Thou art thou only, first in my heart. High King of heaven, my treasure thou art. You sing next one. High King of heaven, my victory won. May I reach heaven's joys, O bright heaven's sun. Heart of my own heart, ever before, still be my vision, O ruler of all.
I'm gonna sing the next one. Did you get Sydney? Be thou my vision, O Lord of my heart. Not be all else to me, save than thou art. Thou my best thought, by day thy presence, my life.
All right, so.
Waking or sleeping, thy presence, my light.
We
All
go
right,
live every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time like we did today. Thank you guys for being with us. We usually do a weekly roundup, but today we had a treat of CPAC. So I'm glad that we got to cover the topics that we did. For those of you that joined us at the end, go back and watch the beginning because it was not intended, but we ended up covering a lot of the Parkland tragedy, which I think was really good for today. So we want to see you guys again on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time where we cover our European and UK news. Really exciting. We filmed an interview with IPP TV.
Oh, can't wait till that comes out.
And so they're in the editing rooms with that. We had a great time with them.
English-Polish friends, I love it.
They're going to come on our show. Episode fully in English. Thank them for that because we don't speak Polish.
How many of you?
Shished.
We're going to have them on our show.
Dziękuję. I got that.
Yep, that's dziękuję.
Dziękuję, thank you. Shished,
there was
like
another
hello.
one. There was another one we got.
Dzień dobry.
Dzień dobry.
Sounds like gingerbread man to me every time. So anyway,
all right,
really
we'll see you all at 1 o'clock Sunday. Be there, be square. Thank you guys for being here.
Thanks to our moderators, Kelly, Worth a Look, Donna, Terry, Maia, Gary. If I'm missing somebody, Donna, Terry, did I say that already? Thank you guys for being here this evening. You guys haven't had to mod much. The chat's been great. Do you want to know why it's been great? Because we're censored and nobody's coming that's outside of the channel, but that's okay. All right, you guys. So we'll see you back here Sunday, and hopefully we'll have an interview with Nick.
I wonder what's going to happen when our Mass Faith 3 channel comes back.
It's going to explode, and it's going to go crazy. My hair kind of fell down today. It kind of looked weird, but that's
interesting.
Right. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I believe everything happens for a reason.
Amen.
So if we're in YouTube jail, then we're going to praise God in YouTube jail until God sends some angels to deliver us out of YouTube jail.
Baby. That's what we're talking about.
I'm only in YouTube jail because God is permitting me to be here right now, because if he wanted me out of YouTube jail, he would send his angels to set us free. I've seen this biblically.
Because we praising him, Lord. We praising him.
That's right. We're in here. We're in YouTube jail.
You know what I want to see?
We are singing praises to the Lord.
I want YouTube to make me a meal afterwards.
That's right.
Because that's what happened. That's what happened to Paul.
That's right. When we get set free, and everybody's gonna be like, "Where'd you come from?"
He was wrongfully imprisoned.
That's
we've been
right.
wrongfully imprisoned.
All right, you guys. We love you. Happy Friday. Hope you guys have a great Saturday. And we'll see you Sunday.
Thou modest on by day or by night, waking or sleeping, thy presence my light.
God bless, guys.
You can sing the Star-Spangled Banner like Fergie.
Oh, no.
With a jazz ray.
Whoa. Stop it.
You're right. You should never do that.
Right. Okay. All right. Good night, guys.